Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Downtime with Downstar, episode 124. And today we're with Eric Anderson, ILK Fab. Eric, what's up, bro?
How you doing, Frank?
Dude, thank you so much for making the drive. It was a trek out here, man.
Yeah, as always.
Dude, I really appreciate your time. I know that time is the most valuable thing we have, and especially for a fabricator. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you could have squeezed in today, but you chose to be here with us, man. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
No, of course, man. So before we get started, can you just give us a quick breakdown of who you are and what you do?
Eric Anderson, ILK Fabrications. I specialize in race application, exhaust systems, headers mainly, and all supporting components.
Out of which area of California?
Southern California, San Diego.
San Diego.
I'm on the border.
Damn, how far from the border?
3 miles.
Really?
Yeah, it's as north as I've lived.
Yeah, that's
in San Diego.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you've lived closer?
I'm born and raised on the border.
No shit.
Other than about 6 years in Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah, that's been the life.
That's crazy, man, because, you know, I'm born and raised here in, this is Ventura, but
right.
The city over is Oxnard. I'm born and raised. And I've never been to San Diego before. Wow. I've only passed through going to Mexico, going to like Rosarito or something.
You're missing out.
I know, man. I am. I think we might just take a trip out there one of these days, Ashley and I. You know, just get a hotel somewhere and then just hang out right there.
You'll enjoy it. If you need any help, just give me a call.
Definitely.
I have people who can get you in hotels. Whatever you need, we'll take care of you.
Definitely, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
But as far as going back to Rosarito, I don't know if I'm about that anymore.
I was on a 20-year hiatus from Mexico up until we had a race down there this year, and I kind of had to bite the bullet and go down, but I refuse to go down to Mexico nowadays.
What changed your mind?
Murders, you know, basically there was a lot of killings, a lot of hostage situations. I'm obviously very white. Yeah. I think you have the only white boy from South San Diego here today. You know, growing up, that's kind of who I was.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time skipping school, skating the TJ skate parks, because, you know, we didn't have that over here, and they had it all down there. So, you know, it was like this mecca of everything you wanted to do and not be at school.
It wasn't hard to cross over?
No, you just walk across. School ID, no problems, you know?
No shit. Yeah. I even remember that when we used to go out there because, I don't know, I'm sure you remember on the radio station and say, this weekend, Little John in Rosarito, you know? Those are the times that
may
we
be
were going.
That may be a little later for me.
So how old are you?
I'm 42.
Okay, 42. So, yeah, I'm 34. So, yeah, it was... I was probably in my early 20s when that was happening, and we would just park at the border, walk across, and then take a taxi.
Yeah, still the same routine.
And then just like use as much English as Spanish as I knew. Yeah. But me being full Mexican, I really don't know that much Spanish.
And my wife's full Mexican. She doesn't know any Spanish.
Really?
I know more than she does. So,
yeah.
You know, it's just how it is.
Yeah. So how was it growing up out there? Paint the picture, man. That's crazy to grow up that close to Mexico.
It was, by the time I got back there, I mean, I guess I got to step back a bit to tell you kind of where I ended up.
Yeah.
But when I was 3 years old, we left San Diego to come down to Simi Valley so my mom could pursue a stunt career. Like, random as hell, but
oh wow,
she wanted to become a stunt woman, and she'd won this big most athletic woman in San Diego contest, and that gave us the money to relocate, come down here. And my dad was a pro golfer, so he had opened up a little golf shop, chef, whatever job he could do to get her through the stunt schooling and all that, you know, getting her black belt. My dad used to hit her with a car and, you know, just
what the fuck.
Yeah, so that's how I grew up, was just this wild action deal where, you know, that was normal for me. Like, I was in racing at 3 years old after we relocated. But basically, we came down here for my mom to pursue her career.
Yeah.
And she was a natural at it. She was beautiful, blonde from the Midwest. You know, my family's from Detroit, from Michigan. And she was able to get in and double a lot of the early 80 to 85, like the Daryl Hannah. There's a lot of movies in the 80s that she was in, simply because of her looks and her ability. And this was at a time when they didn't even use the term stunt woman. It was stunt man, no matter what you were. They wouldn't even give them that much. So she made it, and basically for the next 5 years, she made it in Hollywood, left my pop at 3, you know, and then the shit got crazy. Ended up making tons of money and running all over, living on the streets of Hollywood, living in Griffith Park, running.
Oh damn, we're fast forwarding way too much, dude.
No,
Whoa.
this is just like the beginning. It's not a big deal. We worked
This
this out.
sounds crazy, dude.
There's a lot to it.
So so you grew up in San Diego.
Yeah.
3
Well, at 3, I was born in San Diego.
Okay.
And then at 3 years old, we moved down here for all this to happen.
So you moved down to Simi Valley for your mom to pursue her stunt career.
Correct.
And at what age did your parents split up?
Excuse me, I was 3, so I was probably 2 when we moved down here.
Got you.
So that makes more sense. And then from there, we ended up, back then, it was like when there was any kind of custody deal, you can move with your mom. There was no arguing about it, right? So my dad...
Mom just got...
Yeah, she wore him out. He ended up moving back to San Diego, and we went through the whole Hollywood life. You know, I grew up on Lankershim, which is the street that runs into Burbank Studios, the whole Hollywood. Yeah. And she was also a active member on the live action shows on the A-Team, where they would, you know, like blow shit up, and they would literally blow her out of the building, and she'd run up, and she played a man role. And, you know, I'd go every day after school. I'd ride my bike over there. This was a couple years later, but you know, I'd go watch her on the stunt show, and then I'd go on the sets like Gilligan's Island. Dukes of Hazzard was a big one. There's a lot of stories from the Hollywood days that are pretty wild.
Dude, what the hell? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting childhood.
At that young age, did you realize that your life was different?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain respect. I mean, I knew my family was different. My mom was different. My mom was pretty wild. Like I said, she was a second-degree Kempo black belt. She was a accomplished cellist. She was an Olympic swimmer. She left a scholarship at University of Michigan to come out here. So did my dad. He left Michigan University and basically relocated for the California dream.
Yeah.
And made it, you know, but Hollywood will swallow up somebody from the Midwest.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. So you're 8 years old, 5 years old?
About in there. It's all the same.
When did you start realizing the things that were going on in your life? Because like I really don't remember that much before I was like 20.
I remember everything up to 2 years old, probably.
Okay.
I remember when I walked on the set of Gilligan's Island. And I remember walking on, and I used to go around and I used to jack sodas. Like you know, that was my thing, is like, because nobody was going to buy them for me. So if there was sweets or candy or soda, I was coming up and, you know, I'd give my friends, whatever. And I remember walking on the set of Gilligan's Island, and it was an island, right? So the sand on the set, I remember looking down, I mean, real close, because, you know, when you're young, everything's real big and close.
Yeah.
And seeing the sand and just going, no way, you know, like, this is all fake. Everything's fake. And then right next door was Happy Days, and then Hazard County was right there. And that's where I would hang out after school. When my mom was working on the stunt set, I'd hang around with, you know, like the Fall Guy actors, or Jamie Lee Curtis was a good friend of my mom's. And, you know, there was like, you know, vials in the dressing room, vials of cocaine for everybody, because it was just normal. Like, this is normal life. So they supplied cocaine for all the actors. They had sodas, like, whatever you needed, it was in the dressing room. So a lot of people just hung out there, like all the stars, and like Daisy Duke. Everybody was hooking up with Daisy Duke and doing coke. You know, it was wild.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I didn't realize until, you know, you don't realize who these people are when you're 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, but I had my race bike, and I would kind of I understood what was going on, but I would just take off my bike and ride around on the set and just get in my own little world, because, you know, I was racing pretty heavy even at that early age.
Like bicycles?
Yeah, I was racing BMX. My mom got me in it really, really early. I'm 3 years old, and basically grooming me to be a stuntman. So, you know, she would have me jump off buildings or jump off the roof, and, you know, she taught me to take a fall, and she taught me to fight. Like, there was no backing down in our house. Not with each other. We had a really good relationship. But when it came to anybody else, if I didn't handle my business, she wasn't going to handle it for me. So
if you could fly off a roof, you could beat up a little kid at school.
Yeah, I got in a lot of fights, man. Especially that's what I was kind of getting at. Was we ended up leaving there and going. She got hurt. She fell off a dump truck. Like I told you, they would blow her out of the building, and then she used to run up on this trash truck and say this line, and boom, boom, she would shoot at a guy come down a zip line, and somebody forgot to wipe down the foot pad where she got to the top, and she slipped off and hit a steel barrel and broke all her ribs. Oh. And there was some other issues outside of there.
Yeah.
That had kind of impaired her judgment, I'd say, heavily. Mm-hmm. And basically, we ended up living on the streets while she was working, and somehow ended up living in Canoga Park. Ended up in Canoga Park.
At what age was this?
This was definitely 6 years old. Like by the time I was 6 years old, and we were still going to Hollywood and all that.
Yeah.
But we had just had better surroundings. We had a home. I had a home track. I was racing 3 times a week. I was winning. You know, I had factory backing. And one day, she went out and she didn't come back. You know, she didn't come back I didn't see her until 7th grade. You know, that was 1st grade. So however old you are in 1st grade, she just I think she got locked up. She got locked up or something happened. She loved me to death. You know what I mean? Or she was out of her league as far as what she could control. And you know, I hold no grudges for that. That's life.
So at this time, before she left, you were 6?
Yeah, I'm guessing here. Like,
okay,
it's all within the range. I know how old I was when I ended up back in San Diego.
Got you.
But everything else is kind of a blur as far as age.
Okay, so it's just you and her in Hollywood, about 6 years old.
My sister.
You have a sister too?
5-year older sister.
Okay, got you.
That was kind of my parents. It was my sister.
Was your sister?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just you, your sister, and your mom.
Yep.
Your mom's doing the stunt stuff, and you're just basically on the lot in Burbank.
Yeah.
Just riding around.
And then after that, like I said, she got hurt, and then we ended up leaving Hollywood, North Hollywood. You know, the slums. I swing by there every time I come through, and I have time. I just sit there and I just sit there and be grateful, because it's pretty bad if you go back now. But yeah, we ended up getting out of there, going to Canoga Park, and then having a pretty decent life for a while. And then, like I said, she just she got the worst of her, and that was that. And we ended up back in San Diego. My dad came and got me and got custody of us.
So when she got hurt, that obviously changed her financial status.
Well, she sued.
Okay.
So, you know, it's kind of like a gang thing. If you sue, it's kind of like snitching, you know.
You're out you
signed up to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you roll up to a race or whatever and you get broke off, that's part of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you got to deal with. So when you go to court, you're not going to get hired anymore. You're not going to get no work. So
gotcha. So you're out the club.
Yeah, but she had already worked up enough money for retirement, was set. So she was taken care of as far as that was concerned.
Now, at this time, how old was she?
She was, 30, 35? No. Excuse me. Probably early 30s.
Okay.
I'd say. She was 37. She was 31.
Okay.
31.
Damn.
Yeah. So,
31, just in the middle of Hollywood with the most popular shows ever.
Yeah.
Did you ever, as you're on the set, would you go home and watch those shows at nighttime?
I had my shows I watched, but mainly cartoons.
Did it even click, like, what's happening is what's on TV at prime time?
It did and it didn't. It did because I knew that was this and that. I knew my mom was, you know, it was this show. She was on there. But it's kind of like what I do now. You know, as a stunt person, you don't get the credit. The credit is at the end when you see your name. Like that's the whole, how someone's going to know it was you.
Yeah.
And as a tech, if someone doesn't mention what you've done or what
you don't get the sticker. Yeah.
Yeah, which seems to become more and more important nowadays. But
definitely,
you know,
man.
There's a lot of people that like to live behind the scenes and still be successful.
Yeah. Dude, this is wild. You're blowing my mind right now, bro.
There's a lot of people that says my life should have been a book.
Yeah.
It's a little early on to say weird shit like that, but there's a lot to it.
I think you said 42?
42.
42.
I'm a couple months younger than Mickey.
Oh, okay. That's enough for a book right there, man.
Yeah.
From 42 to 45, you can get that ready to go.
Yeah, that's not even half of it.
Yeah. So, I I don't really want to dive that deep into it. If it's like
No, I'm cool. We're done.
okay.
We're done with that. Like,
So when
we're back in San Diego now, you know.
okay, so she just ended up leaving. Was it something that you knew, or was it one day that you came home she was
No,
gone, or
it's kind of
how did that impact you as a child?
really. Then it didn't. You know, I was used to it. I was pretty independent. By the time, I mean, I was 6 years old. I was out. There was no curfew. I'd ride until I was tired of it. You know, and the lights are on, and I'd come in, and there was never any kind of structure there. So, you know, we were taught manners and skills, but there was no rules. You know, that's the thing with parenting. You got to draw a line.
Yeah.
You can't be friends. You to an extent.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's a line you don't cross.
Definitely.
And unfortunately, that line was never there. So, you know, it was what it was.
Yeah.
And it made a tough kid out of me. You know, I wasn't really a big kid. I was a stocky kid. I was a tough kid.
Yeah.
And that helped me when I came back to San Diego because it was a lot less people, a lot more space. It's a lot more affluent as far as the Mexican cultures, Filipino cultures. Really, we were the only house on the block that was, you know, white.
Yeah.
And when I showed up, I had a chip on my shoulder. And if you called me anything the obvious, you know, white boy, whatever, I was ready to scrap. Like, I mean, I wouldn't even wait for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was on.
Just already about 6-7 years old when you get back to
8 years old.
8 years old when you get back to San Diego. Yep. How was the relationship with your dad being away from him for those years?
It was rough. He was remarried, and we just had to try to figure out how to make things work. You know, and we had my sister and I, we were both pretty wild. And to come back into a new marriage, like, that's not what she signed up for. And, you know, it was just a whole different dynamic. I didn't have rules, you know, and my dad was a really amazing man.
Mm-hmm.
He lived and died by the book. He worked 2 jobs. He did everything he could to still recuperate from that time he took from college to make those early things happen. But he got stuck in these dead-end jobs for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And it got very good for him in the end. But it was hard to develop a good relationship again, that it wasn't the disciplinarian, because I needed a lot of it. You couldn't send me to school without, you know, getting sent right back from a fight or some kind of drama going on. You know? I just didn't know how to act. So and there was no consequence before, but he really made a mission out of me. You know, like, he would ground me. I spent so much time in my room, like, locked in my room. Punishment, you know, a good talking to, and then time to reflect on it. And it got to the point where I was never outside because I was always locked in my room. And my bike had got stolen, my race bike, my life, like 2 weeks in coming to San Diego, and then 8 more bikes after that. And it was just, I couldn't keep that hobby anymore. There was no transport to the track. So I went from winning, say, 3 races a week to nothing. To just living in the hood and, you know, boxing and then the kids down the street as a hobby, and eventually, you know, going into gangbanging and just doing what I had to do, you know, like, all that shit. And, you know, there's we don't need to go into the details on all that, but when I was 14, my dad's marriage had gone away. My sister got emancipated at 16, moved out. You know, fully independent at 16. And at 14, he told me, you know, you got to go. And it was kind of opening. He saw where I was going. It was pretty obvious from what I was wearing, what I was up to. Coming home drunk, you know, coming home bloodied up, or my hands broken, or whatever.
At 14.
14, I was 6'1". So, I mean, I was bigger than most kids in my class. So
yeah,
I had no problem fighting people my age, but I'd have to fight their cousins, their brothers, and just go down the line. And eventually I just kind of clicked up to not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And when he did that, when I had to move, my mom had came back during this time. And they tried to make it work, didn't work. She got an apartment in a city called Chula Vista, where I live now, which is one city up. It's like 2 miles.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want to go live with my mom.
Yeah.
But I had nowhere else to go. So I went and lived with my mom. And for like 2 years, I I didn't go to school, dropped out of school. I never went to high school. No education beyond 8th grade from that time.
Yeah.
And basically kind of took the reins in the house, took the money and started trying to manage everything. Excuse me. Manage everything so, it didn't happen again. You know what I mean? I think that's what it did to me, was it made me realize that things leave and people are some of them. And I basically like locked myself down, and then got into some other hobbies like tinkering with race cars. I used to race RC cars, and I was always doing something, like obsessing about it. It wasn't like I halfway did anything. So I'm living with my mom at this point now, and my grandfather was always the source of my hobby income from Michigan, and so that's why we had money for that stuff. But beyond it, we didn't have anything else.
So 14 years old, your dad tells you gotta go.
Yeah.
At this time, what's your mindset? What's the way that you think about life? Are you angry that your mom left? Are you angry? What is it that makes you go down this other path?
It's kind of par for the course at this point. You don't think it's any different, like you get hit enough, you're not surprised the next time you get hit. You just roll with it. And that's kind of where I went, and there was some, in my young mind, there was a lot of positives to it. I no longer had my dad breathing down my neck, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest. I didn't have, any kind of structure where I had to go to school. I tried Learning Center. I tried everything. I eventually did go to trade school and get, like degrees and my GED and stuff like that. Should I join the Army for a few months? But I had a lot of injuries that they lied about. And there's just a lot to it. I had, through racing, I had broken my collarbone 4 times at that time. And it was popping up, and it shortened my military career. But I made sure to get my GED, get some skills, which was in the automotive trade. And I'm not even sure that's what I wanted to do. It was just like to appease other people. But
so were you excited to move back in with your mom to get that sort of freedom again?
No, but you make light of what you got. You make the best of every situation. And I was happy to have her, and I was happy to know where my dad was. And my dad went on to go back to school at a later age, and he became the senior instructor for IBM after all those dead-end jobs, and started making big money, and came back in my life and really made a difference. So it's all a wash, like it ended up being, when I needed my license, there was no one there, like things like that, and he came back in and it helped me out. But beyond that, there's a lot of resentment there as far as not having childhood, really, but it's, I don't say any of this to shock or like to be cool about anything, but it's just part of my story.
It's very interesting.
It's just what in the end kind of separates me when I'm in a crowd, like my thinking, and relating to people, and not relating to people, so I think it's important that you understand,
No, definitely,
the beginning other than the end. So.
That's why I love to have people on the podcast. A lot of people, they may know you from the fabrication work that you do, the channels and stuff that you'll pop up on, and this is, that's the guy who does the fab, but I don't think a lot of people really get to tell what makes them, even myself, just being in the industry for so long, I've barely done really any interviews, any chance to tell my story, and any chance that I've ever told it was that I made that opportunity happen. And not only for me, but for others. I don't think that's right, dude. Like we put our whole life and soul into this. And I'm that's why I want to build this platform, man, to be able to hear stories like this.
Well, you're good at it, and you're an inspiration to me because you're good at what I'm not.
Thank you.
You're doing what you're doing now is an example of that.
Thank you.
And being a people person, not a people pleaser. There's a fine line there.
Yeah.
You can't just sit here and stroke people off all day. You got to really, get down to what it really is, you know.
Yeah.
And,
No, definitely.
you know, and that's kind of what you had Mickey on here. I think that's Mickey's greatest quality is he's not going to let shit fly, you know.
Dude, the Mickey episode was so great, man.
Yeah, I've watched it. I've listened to it twice.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just, you know how you have, I'm alone a lot. You'll figure that out pretty quick. And you know, the only sound you have when you're in the shop is what you're playing or what you're listening to. And lately I've been listening to podcasts. And I was just kind of, I haven't listened to many podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I listened to my clients' podcast. Luckily, you know, a few of you guys have them. Beyond that, nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this works or, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with podcasting is it's pretty much like the Wild West right now as far as content creating and conversations.
Right.
That's why I told you before this, you can say anything that you want. I can say anything I want. The only thing that we have to do is realize that there's people listening and they're going to hear what we said. But we're not going to have a YouTube taking us down. Spotify can't take us down. SoundCloud can't, you know, and that's, to some that's scary, but to others it's liberating, you know. I can't talk my my real feelings on social media because one person sees a comment that I make or a caption or whatever, and they have something in their mind that, oh, I don't want nothing to do with that company, you know. But when you come to this space, you know what you're coming here for. Right. And this is the raw, real conversations, and it kind of weeds out those people that are just, you know, fair weather supporters. Right. And the people that really listen, they want to hear these kind of conversations.
Yeah, I know I do.
Yeah,
I really do. I get interested in more of the background than the car stuff. We all have that common denominator. We've all been down that road. I mean, at least to some extent. Yeah. And you know, we figure that stuff out at SEMA when we meet. Like, that's when I met you. I mean, I was leaving. Do you remember that night? Yeah. We ended up having sushi with. It was at the random bar, right? You were at the Cosmo, the chandelier bar. Yeah, the chandelier bar. Yeah. They didn't let me in the club for reasons I won't get into. Yeah. And then I ended up linking up with you. Yeah. And Ryan and Chris Jenner. And then we had sushi. That's right. Yeah. That's that last year. Yeah, that was last year. I don't want to get far away from the childhood. No worries. I want to get back to that, but I'm like super intrigued. Don't worry, I'm not making it up. I won't forget it. I feel you, dude. So, 14 years old, you're living with your mom. You're hanging around with a tough crowd. What? No, excuse me. I probably should. By that time, I had done everything I had to do to leave that behind me. Got you. I didn't take that with me. So from 14 to what ended up happening after that? You're living with your mom, and then you decide that you don't want to go down that hard road for not having money anymore. So you take it upon yourself to be the quote unquote man of the house, or? No, it wasn't so much that. I wasn't earning any money. I was just basically taking the income we had, which was Screen Actors Guild. You know, whenever you do a movie on a high level, aside from cable or any of the platforms we're on today, you get a residual. So if they replayed it on TV, you'll get a residual for thousands of dollars. Okay. So every month it was like a lottery. You know, what movie's going to play, what money's going to come in, and then that money had to be managed. And basically to keep certain things out of, you know, certain places, you can keep the money and kind of control those situations. At least in my mind, I could. Got you. And I just kind of, I'm a reclusive person. Like, that's just my nature from moving around. I went to 22 elementary schools. So, you know, there's this thing where you're always a new kid, and you get to a point where you just you don't care about fitting in anymore. Yeah. Or just hopping in a crowd and just getting caught up in all that, where, you know, you're just completely content alone. And that's what I did, is I just got into my hobbies and eventually got back into biking. And that led me to a whole new freedom. You know, like, it really brought back a part that was missing, and that was the bike side of it, because it was a passion thing. I was never go race your bike, you know. No, hell no. You had to drag me off the street to get me off my bike, you know. And then early on, I had to fix everything. So, you know, as a young boy, I'm changing my race bike setup. I'm changing, you know, the beater bike setup, and I'm fixing all the other kids' stuff. So that's kind of where it came out of necessity, the ability to be mechanical. And then I got into racing RC cars, like I was saying, and I don't know how that came about. I think it was just because there was a hobby shop nearby. And I got into like turning motors and tuning suspension, and it really taught me how cars act and how power delivery is ever, not just a bunch of power.
Yeah.
It just taught me dynamics of
Gotcha.
how race cars work.
So when you started biking, how did you even get into that, and how did you learn how to, start fixing your bike or tinkering with it?
Well, I mean, it was the 80s, like the early 80s. You couldn't go in an auto parts store without there being a full BMX section. Yeah, the movie, this was before the movie Rad, which was a popular BMX. It's like a cult BMX movie.
Okay.
I would say the Fast and the Furious, but neither one of them are accurate, right?
Yeah.
So, not to hurt anybody's feelings, but,
Spoiler.
oh, my God. Yeah. Basically, the 80s, BMX was popping.
Okay.
I mean, that's what was going on. And I've always been really competitive.
Okay.
When it comes to racing, I don't root for teams. I'm not a team sport guy. I'm into motocross now.
Yeah.
Not so much because I've given too much of my body to sport, but racing BMX was this way to put me against the next guy, and there was no excuses.
Gotcha.
There's no team. There's nobody to blame. You go out win or you don't.
Yeah.
Or you get hurt.
Yeah.
And I like that aspect. I like that danger of it. And later on, same with street racing. It kind of came about the same way. So, I had to tinker with them because if I didn't, they wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, there was just something that I fell in love with. I mean, I can't explain it. Yeah.
So at the time that you, after 8th grade, what are you doing with the rest of your day? Or what are you doing with your day since you're not going to school?
Fiddling, running, going riding that dirt jump spots when no one's there. Just strolling the city, just being alone, I don't know, hanging out. And then there was this little dirt jump spot by the house. We always have that whack dirt jump spot that somebody put a mound of dirt.
Yeah.
But, it'll do because it's close to home. And I would go ride this spot, and I'd, jump it backwards, forwards, sideways, whatever, just make it fun. And then there was some kids from the apartments that came down. This is, very important in my story.
Okay.
This point in my life. Because I ended up meeting some kids that they were telling me about this mecca, right, of this dirt jump spot called Honda Hill. They called it Honda Hill because the old Honda test team used to test there. So basically these kids introduced me to this new spot, and it was first time I saw it, we rolled up, it would be like rolling up on a 14-foot oververt quarter, and you're just that's the first thing you're going to drop into? And you're like, hell no. Right, so it was that spot, and it was known around the world for being a nice place to ride
for dirt bikes.
Yeah, for BMX bikes.
But for what did Honda use it for?
To test their
dirt bikes,
motor and their jetting, and we race SoCal. Any of our race teams, when you test, you want to test where you race.
Yeah.
So when they came down here, they tested by the border.
Got you.
So it just developed, and then housing developments came in, and then the Honda Hill moved. And it just followed. Mm-hmm. And I eventually bought a home there. I live there now.
Yeah.
So, it long story short, it was a place to connect with pros. Mm-hmm. It was a connect to get really good at what I was doing. And it was also a place to meet people to get rides to the track. So from there, everything, my life changed.
And what age is this?
16.
Okay.
16 is when I first went down to the jump spot.
Gotcha.
And it's a place where my friends to this day are from that place. My wife, I met, her bus got off right there. I've been with her, since I got with her when I was 17.
Yeah.
And I've been with her ever since. So everything came from that dirt jump spot. And, growing up around BMX, you're around TIG welds, you're around failing welds, you're around the engineering of the bike, how a bike handles, how head angle, there's a lot of dynamics to what's going on. And I was lucky to be with a pro, one of the local pro, the only local pro that was there was an engineer. Mm-hmm. He was in school for engineering. And he was designing parts to overcome the failures we were having. So we were really early on, we were a part of development products that are standard now.
Yeah.
So it was, and we were, there's videos to this day that you can look up on the internet, and you can watch our childhood that are embedded in the internet, and they're real, released videos that we put out.
And you're in them?
Yeah, I break bones in them. Yeah, it's I still show my kids. They're so tired of seeing them. But look at Dad break his ass off, Shit, I think I did the gnarliest thing ever for like 3 T-shirts. That's the hype was real.
Yeah.
But it was a really good time in my life. Like it was the transitioning into adulthood and having real friends and having real love. And my mom was doing okay.
Yeah.
And we never really got beyond. It was more like a brother sister thing to a point.
Yeah.
And so I had to go real quick. And I can't say I was mature about it. Like I wasn't like all fucking knowing. I had a lot of anger issues and anxiety issues and shit that happens when you peg your reality, to a point of, like, have you ever been to a haunted house and like something freaks the shit out of you, like, or that you get the heebie-jeebies or something? And
no, but I want to.
Oh.
I've really.
Oh yeah, you were looking up the freak. Yeah.
I've really been into ghosts and aliens lately.
That's it's an interesting thing to be into, But when your body pegs your endorphins, your adrenaline, I don't know what it's called, but you can only do that so many times before it makes a long-term impact on you.
Really?
Yeah, and that's eventually becomes PTSD.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I didn't mention that I was witness to. Like we, I'll give you an example, a quick one, because it's kind of gnarly. Like I don't know how people say, oh, we're gonna talk about B swaps, and then they're gonna hear this shit.
Bro, people, I tell you, man, we've heard the craziest conversations on this podcast, and people really enjoy it. Like I said, dude, we could talk about anything that you want.
It's just part of the story, but it was. I was sitting when my mom left. The place we went to. Do you know where Eagle Rock is?
No.
Well, it's like this really affluent neighborhood in the mountains. I think it's out past Pasadena. I don't really know my geographic anymore. But we ended up in this big mansion on a hill. My mom was dating this cameraman. He was a lot of things, but none of them good. Mm-hmm. Basically doing Hollywood things, and basically one day he came in. He had rage issues. He had problems, and he stabbed her in the face. Like I was just playing, and he came in, and he didn't have the balls to come in straight up with her, because she would have handled him no problem. Mm-hmm. He just came in from back, and he fucking shoved a knife in her face, and I was just. Mom pulled it out, turned around, and beat the shit out of him. Cleaned herself up, and we went about our day. And so we're looking for a way out, is where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And the way out was because this guy he had so much range in Hollywood and where we were at. My mom was still working at the time. There was politics involved. So she basically waited till he had an MG, the old convertibles. And my mom being a trained stunt driver, she used to jump the General Lee on Dukes of Hazzard. I have pictures of her with like her hair falling out that they couldn't use, like her blonde hair, and her helmet.
Yeah.
So she was really good in a car. She was amazing in a car. She basically waited till he was passed out in the MG, coming home, and drove it under a semi. And she did her maneuver, what she had to do, and left his ass there, and paid him back. And he didn't die. He lived. He lived. And from what I just found out recently, he's still alive. Nobody will tell me where he is. Not like I'm looking for him or anything, but so basically she came home and like her ears hanging off, literally, because she got caught. And she has her ear, and she's like, pack your shit, we're leaving. Right? And we moved to Griffith Park. And she only drove Camaros, straight up Camaros, 70 to 73. Oof. All she owned. She had a brown Camaro. Didn't you have a brown Camaro?
1980 Camaro,
right.
yeah. So but I always wanted that second generation, dude. Yeah. First generation was great, but something about the second, I don't know. Maybe it was because it was like the better version of mine, but just like those round lights in the back, and that's an awesome car.
And the sucked-in bumpers.
Yeah, I love it, dude.
Yeah, she had 4 of them. She had 4 of them, and like she wrecked all of them. Like she rolled one, and all this other shit. But we ended up living in that car. We dipped out, and we got our own apartment. He went into he had to go to the hospital. He was in the hospital for months. And through Hollywood, we got an apartment, and through Hollywood, he eventually found us again. And my mom didn't report any of this because she had warrants. You know, this just part of this lifestyle. We're already in this deep, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and he found us and just came in the apartment one day. I was home alone. Came home from school, and he came in. He called the police on my mom for the warrants. And my mom came home right before the police arrived. And she came in and she dealt with him. Like, you know, what are you doing here? This guy was still trying to impose his will on our life. And she saw the cops come. And basically, we were on the second story. And she ran and jumped off the second story over this huge gap onto this trash bin and just fucking ran. And basically, you see her running. Like, it was funny to us. Like, 'cause I'm totally desensitized to whatever. I just know my mom's getting away. And I'm like, fuck yeah, she's gone. Mom. She's like a deer. She's gone. And there's cops running, whatever, and then she finally gives up. And they bring her back, and they're like, oh, I caught her. And he's like, fuck you didn't catch nobody. This is how my mom was, right? This is a person that, for all intents and purposes, raised me. Yeah. And basically, she went to jail, did her deal, and was out in a few hours. And then they didn't do nothing to that. They didn't handle anything business with that dude. For breaking in, nothing. This is a different time, right? So, you know, people weren't as sensitive, I guess, but they always sided with the man here and then the woman here. It was very biased. But that was the end of that dude. After that, and we settled the legal issues. That was just a wild story, but that's how we got out of that situation and got to be on our own and transition from my dad. And
so, with all of this going on, how aware of everything that you're going on with your life is your dad? With your situation?
He's pretty aware. There's many times where he had come and taken us, you know, and taken us to the police station and said, look at my son, you know. My sister nothing ever happened to her, unfortunately. Although I think the person that it doesn't happen to, I think it affects more. Yeah. It's pretty easy to take a hit, but it's pretty easy to watch. It's pretty hard to watch somebody you love, you know, take a hit. I would much rather get hit than anybody that I love. Yeah. You know, no definitely. Problem. I'll deal with it. You know, so it was harder on her, I think, but I kind of jumped off track there. What was the question? About
how much your dad knew about your situation.
Oh, like I said, he knew everything, but he knew it all, you know, but they wouldn't give him custody because the woman back then always got custody. We also had during this time, my dad did come down, and my uncle, who I was really close to, had enough. Let's just say, and took a way out that affected all of us. That really changed the dynamic of my blood family. My mom's adopted. Okay. So, the Anderson side, my name is my blood side, and basically my Uncle David, who my son's named after, had an issue with his marriage and didn't take it very well. Yeah. And he came down to tell my mom, because they grew up together. They were high school sweethearts. And they kind of bonded there and mourned that. And then that was it. You know, like I didn't see him again until I was moving with him. And I was reluctant. I didn't want to go. And I pulled up. I remember riding up to the house and the U-Haul's there. You know, it was like your life is one way and then there's a U-Haul and you're gone again, you know, just when you get comfortable. So I guess that's at the point of my whole childhood. It was very transient. There was no stability. There was no nothing. So it really carries over now.
Now, how aware of you were you that your life was completely different? Were you talking to friends, or were you going to friends' houses and being like, wait, why isn't your mom not jumping out windows or anything? Or
no, because everybody's like, the only question I had is like, your mom makes you lunch after fucking school, you know, cooking beans, or, you know, the Mexican moms always, you know, took care of their family or smell the food. I was always hungry. Yeah. You know, I learned how to handle, if I needed food, I'd go get food, you know, however I had to do it. And I'd fend for myself for a long time. And I knew it wasn't normal, but I wasn't out there talking about it. What I did do very well, though, was I was very good with writing. So whenever we would have writing competitions, even with my really bad grades and bad behavior, I won almost every writing competition I entered. Yeah. And I was very into books. If you gave me a book of a trade, to me, you were giving me secrets and money and my ability to cheat the system, you know, and bypass all these people and not have to talk to people and just go about my business, build what I want to build, and not have to really have any input from anybody.
Yeah.
And it provoked that. You know, it provoked that very well.
So do you feel like a different chapter of your life started when you found that park when you're about 16?
100%. It absolutely did. I mean, yeah. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And it allowed me to be free again. You know, when you really truly love something, there's nothing else in the world you think about that thing at the time you're with that idea or that, you know, like me riding my bike to this day. Like I was just in Yosemite. I hadn't been on a bike in I don't know how long. And I just got out in the morning. I woke up in the morning and I was like, I'm going to go sprint my bike. And I was like, why don't I do this every day? You know, like, why am I not riding my bike? And nothing in the world makes me feel that way. It just,
Yeah.
it's my alcohol. You know, people turn things. It's free for me. It's freedom. You know, I have everything in the world I ever want right now. And it's like, you get so caught up, material stuff. You get so caught up in life and other people's projects. You begin to miss what makes you happy, what truly makes you happy. And bikes do that for me. It's just a release, and it's pretty amazing.
Are you talking all bikes or just BMX?
Well, anything at this point.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good. I mean, I have 9 motorcycles and probably as many bikes, and I have everything from, you know, my main road bikes, motocross bikes, and BMX bikes. That's kind of it. And road bikes are a recent thing. Like I said before I turned 40, I would own a Ducati. And because I had so many come through for fab work, because, you know, Italian bikes or Ferraris for that matter, a lot of the parts aren't replaceable and they're very expensive to come by. So as a fabricator, you get a lot of very exotic things to either repair or build. So I ended up buying this Ducati, right? Like, I'm at Disneyland. My wife's like, you know, you haven't talked about the Ducati in a while. I'm like, well, what's going on? The business is doing really good in the first year. And she gave me the okay. So like I walked away and literally bought it at Disneyland. I called my boy and like gave him a deposit before she changed her mind. And I came back. She's like, what'd you do? I was like, I bought the Ducati. She said, what do you mean you bought a Ducati? I'm like, I bought the Ducati. I'm like, don't trip.
You said.
Yeah. I'm like, you won't even see the money. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I bought a 220 horsepower, 400 pound bike. And, I got into road bikes, you know, and it got to the point where that began to feel slow. You know, I'm doing 160, 170, 190 to go get a burrito on a ride that used to take me an hour and 30 minutes, which is now narrowed down to 40 minutes. And, you know, it really started, the reality started to set in of, you know, this is going to go bad real fast. Yeah. And then I had 3 friends pass away this year from just cell phone issues, I would call them, you know, people pulling out or whatever. 3 people died in 6 weeks, and I haven't touched my bike since. I haven't touched my bike since my apprentice, who should have been here today when I was telling you. Dan, shout out to Mr. S1000. He's got my back no matter what.
Hell yeah, man. Closest. It's good to have people like that.
He's my boy. He basically shouldn't be here right now. He was riding home and just went to go chill at his boys after work and hit a car, and that was it. So I still have my Ducati, but I haven't ridden it in probably a year and a half. And then I have all my motorbikes, which is my real passion, that I still ride now and then. I'm just totally out of shape right now to be able to hold on to that amount of power and the way I want to ride it.
Yeah.
So it's all relative. If I'm on 2 wheels, obviously the higher the danger, the more reward. But I'm not willing to take those risks anymore.
Yeah.
2004, I shattered my leg 14 places. And then, excuse me, my nose is running. Do you have a tissue by chance?
Not with me.
I'll deal with it. It's not that bad. 2004, I shattered my leg. 2006, I broke my back. And then I broke my collarbone for the 7th time. And it exploded up into my throat. And I was working both times. Had a real good job at this point, which I guess we'll kind of get into that, but I'm kind of getting into that. I had permanently hurt myself. Like when I shattered my leg, they wanted to cut my foot off, and I healed from that. And I didn't ride very much. You know, when I got hurt, my sons were at the track, and I remember looking at them through the fence, and I'm like, I can't be doing this.
Yeah.
This isn't something a responsible father does. You know, so I kind of checked myself, pulled back, went out. Second ride back, I broke my back. 26 minutes in, I went from the terrain changed. And it was the same with this broken leg. It was this little stupid thing. Like when you let your guard down, right? When you're set up for something big, you're very focused. When you're on something very small, you let your guard down.
Yeah.
And I paid the price heavily twice. So on the mend from all that, I kind of left motorcycles. I still ride them. I still go out. I still do laps. I only go to tracks. Sometimes I'll go to the desert. But I still go out and I go, what you would think would be pretty extreme is kind of mellow, you know, for your normal enthusiast. But
so when you're riding BMX, you're doing like racing and jumps and such.
Yeah,
correct?
Used to.
Did you do any street riding?
Yeah, I did everything. I mean, we built bikes back then to do both, you know, and you kind of handicap yourself with weight and all that. But honestly, if you're that focused on weight, you probably weren't that competitive anyways at this point in time. And we would do all that. Like we would travel from here to Orange County, Moreno Valley. There was only so many skate parks, you know, and contests to be had. And it was just something that I lived and breathed every day. And through that spot, Honda Hill, is where the car thing happened. That's where it all started to manifest. I had gotten, I'd bugged my grandfather for, like, you know, you write your grandfather a letter, like that little hustle letter, like, this is why I want this, right? And I did it for like 10 years. Yeah. 10 years. My mom was always putting me on motorcycles. She was like, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It just never really panned out. And eventually my grandfather finally said, yeah. When I was 17 years old, a year after Honda, I started going to Honda Hill, I was telling you. And I used to have to push it 3 miles on the street, just walk that bitch 3 miles. I would ride it. It would foul spark plugs, you know, it would too much oil. I couldn't tune it. It would break like 6 times. I fix it 6 times, and I push it home 3 miles. And I was that passionate about the motorcycle thing that's what I did. And it eventually like blew the transmission, and I traded it for a bike that was literally in buckets. And this is kind of how I got my reputation with my friends. When you split the case on a motorcycle engine, the transmission comes apart. There's the gear clusters, the synchros, the shift forks, all that is just, I get it in buckets. And this was an Austrian motorcycle, so there was no instructions for it. I ended up putting the whole motorcycle together in my room with serial boxes for gaskets, and the bike ran perfectly when I was done, until I hit a quad wide open head on and broke my 3rd collarbone, and broke the whole front of the bike off. But you know, it didn't deter anything. It didn't slow anything down. It was just like, fuck, I can't ride. You know, that's all injuries were just a little, you know, curb in the road. And so, you know, it was pain and riding an extreme side of things is just kind of normal, right? So when cars came around, it was like, this is, you know, I started seeing the similarities, you know, and that's kind of what started it all. And knowing what an engine's supposed to feel like between your legs, sounds fucked up, but you know, knowing how an engine's supposed to make power, how it's supposed to work when it's not working right, is very important on a motorcycle. Because if you're going to do a certain obstacle, if you have a failure, you're going to kill somebody. I mean, paralyze them, or you're going to hurt them real bad, or you're going to hurt yourself. So, you know, it's just that critical thinking and that approach was there from day one, you know, aside from like the tinkering in the bikes and the RC cars. So I learned engine dynamics, and I had this old school dude who used to take me all through Mexico racing and show me how to rebuild motors. And I just latched on to anybody I can learn from, older kids and older men, you know, like that sounds very weird. But, you know, like there was a dude, he'd come down and test his bikes there, and I was able to say, I'll work for free if you take me, you know, to the races. And that's what he did. And this dude's name was Rudy. I wish I could find this guy, because, you know, he really helped me out at a point in time, because he included me in something that I otherwise wouldn't be able to, you know, enjoy. Yeah. And those were some good years, especially going through Mexico, because it was a different time, and Mexico was real fun back then. So
what age did you get your first car, and what was it?
First car was I was 17. It was a Delta 88. It was a. You ever see the old Beast? Oh, I'm old. The old Beastie Boys video. There's this big ass 4-door. It's a Delta 80. It looks like a cop car, but the trunk's slanted. It's like a Caprice.
Okay.
So it was a shit box.
Yeah.
It was $300 on the side of the road, and I had a check for a lot more. But I saw it. I was like, shit, $300. This car's dope. We could fit bikes in there, and I didn't care about cars.
Yeah.
That's not what. I was still about riding my motorcycle, and I drove that around for a while. And then one day I woke up, it was gone. Turns out the plates were stolen and whatever. I never registered it. I never got a license. I never did shit. I just rode around. But my first vehicle was actually a 1981 Honda motorcycle.
Okay.
But the first car was the same year, and yeah, I lost that car. And then I went away to the Army for a few months, came back, and with that money, I bought an 80 Celica.
Okay.
Because that's what I could afford. And that kind of, my buddy at the time had a brand new 95 Honda Civic, EG hatch, brand new. I remember he rolled up and it had his crew on an intake. And I'm like looking at that part, like that looks like a motorcycle part, you know, and I start making the similarities, and I start getting hyped on it. And then he races me in his, you know, DX 1.5 and beats me by like a car. And then back then it was more like gangbanging when you race somebody. It was like, all right, what are you going to do? You know, like, you know, it gets all cool guy, peace. He wins and then he dips out. Just like, fuck, I'm not going to beat him with this old piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I had a son. My son was on the way at this point. Like, we're missing a lot of it. We're just jump over, but I have a son on the way.
Yeah.
I had my son 10 days before my 20th birthday. And I needed a more reliable car. And my dad took me to the dealership to co-sign for me. And I bought a brand new 1997 Nissan 200 SX in Pacific Blue, which is basically the blue you see on all R34s. I have one in my shop right now, actually. An R34 is the same color, but it had a pearl in it. And you could see this car a mile away. It was like, on the lot, it was hideous. My dad's like, why do you want that car? And I was like, don't worry about it. Like, that's the car I want. And we bought it. And I remember I pulled out. He comes up next to me and he's just like that color's dope. Once he saw it outside, and he's like, don't touch the car. You know, like my Celica, I had already built the head. You know, one of the dudes the guy taught me how to drive, I backtrack here, came down to Honda one day and he started riding BMX for motocross. And he's like, let me ride your bike. And I'm like, let me drive your car. And he's like, done. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to drive a car. He's like, it's just like your motorcycle. And he threw me the keys and he split. So this was like a built cabriolet Rabbit. So it's a Rabbit, but it has a cabbie kit on it. It's dropped. It's got a built head. This is one of the premier engine builders that eventually, TB? TB just broke the world record for the B series.
Yes.
TB basically was like, this is the dude that everybody went to. Bisimoto. These were all guys that developed cylinder heads back then. TB came later, after all this. But threw me the keys and I got in the damn car and never, just like my motorcycle, right? Clutch, same shit. I'm doing 115 down the road. 10 seconds later, because you get on a motorcycle, you're like red line. Well, did the same thing. Fifth gear wide open, right there in front of the jumps, just 115 miles an hour. And then somehow didn't kill anybody or hurt anybody. This was through a neighborhood. Yeah. And then parked the car, and he became a really good friend to this day. He's one of my closest friends, and basically that's how I learned how to drive. Was he just threw me the keys, and that was it. And we used to go chill in his shop, and he'd be building cylinder heads. He'd be doing dual carb conversions, big cams. So we learned at that time, I say we because, it was just our little group, cylinder head design, cam profile, nitrous. And we didn't even care. We weren't even really driving. We were just chilling, doing things you do at that age, chilling in a garage, hanging out. And, we started making, our cars made power. We weren't buying parts. We were bumping compression and trying to get more fuel in there and turbocharging. And I was on the bottle from day one, rolling out. It was something that I didn't go out to lose. To this day, I'm still that way. Yeah. I don't go out to halfway compete. Short of cheating, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You know? So, and even then, there's some rules that, you know, are loose that you can play with if you're smart enough. So, you know, and that's kind of what started it all was him showing us, you know, if you're smart enough and you understand the dynamic of what's going on here, you can manipulate this, you know, and it all started there. I started building up my car. I remember back, this was probably 1998. I say that this is like a common thing that I've heard from a couple people that I've listened to. I've listened to Mickey and I listened to a little bit of RJ.
Okay.
Because of the background and the age. I don't mean try to be narrow-minded, but it's like my attention span only goes so far.
It's more to relate to if it was around the same time as
right. And I wanted to hear RJ's story.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
And then like with Mickey, I was like college. Like, whoa, man! Like I have mad respect for people who did that.
Yeah.
You know, that's an achievement in itself. And basically, I don't even know what I was saying again, dude. Like I'm losing my brain, but. That was like the difference I think with Mickey and I didn't go to college, so I had a lot more time in the industry. But we were talking.
So you say you were working on your car, and
excuse me. I was the common denominator with RJ and all that. I had Racing Heart C1s on the car.
Got you.
You know, the OG 3Ps. I had a which nobody had back then. I had a cage in the car, and it was this color green. Mm-hmm. Just happens to be the same
Mickey's
color
green.
that Mickey rocks, right? I mean, it may have been a little more cowy green, but when I did my logo, I'm like, everybody's eating this color up. I love the color, but, you know, just run it. So basically, the car it had a kit. They didn't make a kit for the car. So I found another kit, made it work. And I was never into systems or anything. My car was gutted. It was on the bottle, as much nitrous as the ignition could hold. And, you know, we played with the head a bit. And that car really never lost. I mean, I'd go out and run like the equivalent would be like a GSR on a 75 shot, and I'd either outdrive them or, you know, it just wasn't a race.
So this is your early 20s?
This is I'm 20. I'm 21 at the time.
2021. You just had your son?
Yeah, well, I had my son at 19, and I turned 20, and then we got the car that year, so I was 21 when the car was kind of built, and we started street racing really. Like we started getting into that side of it through my, his name's Bill Ottinger, the cylinder head guy. Mm-hmm. He took us, prior to that, he had taken us out to the V8 street races, which were on the border. There's the 905 freeway, which is the last east to west, west to east American freeway in the United States. Mm-hmm. And they would go off and they'd have big money races out there. And I've always been, muscle cars are dope. Don't get me wrong. I spent a good amount of time doing my part in the V8 world as an employee and as tech. But when we were at the street races and there's this Nova rocking everybody and just running them all night, winning, and this little bug pulls up on a trailer and puts all his money down, pulls up to that Chevelle and just rips him a new asshole. I was really infatuated with that Volkswagen did. Mm-hmm. You know, it was again the underdog. And I remember the exhaust being huge, like, because I had studied bugs up until that point, and I remember it coming out. So, you know, it was a turbo bug, and we saw it slaughter this big muscle car. And from there, it was on. It was just 4 cylinders, and that import lifestyle started. You know?
So at this stage, early 20s, how's the relationship with you and your wife and your new family?
Turbulent as hell. You know, you can't be extreme into your hobbies and maintain a family. You just can't. And at the time, we weren't living together. You know, we were still young. We hadn't gotten to the point where, one, she obviously, I didn't earn the trust quite yet. I was still, you know, like, I'll be back in an hour, and I'd go street race until the sun come up. Or, you know, we'd start on Friday and we'd street race all the way into Sunday. You know, 4 or 5 bottles of nitrous. And, you know, but it was rough. It was rough. And being in the industry, I always had side work. I needed side work. And keep messing your chair.
It's all good.
And basically, I trying to make a living doing this and trying to be an enthusiast at the, you know, in this sport and be
Yeah.
faster, it occupied all my time, you know, and a lot happened during that time that could have went either way, but she stuck it out, you know, and I think it's for a long time after that is why I make a lot of allowances, you know, because she was down for me no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, there's never, I don't know if you could tell, but up until this point, that was the first person that showed me.
Real
They
love.
didn't tell me something. They showed me something, you know, and it was without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it was, I was reflecting on that recently, like thinking about this conversation and, you know, about the people in my life. And I started feeling really grateful for it, you know, and she's a ride or die, like straight up. That girl has been through some shit with me, you know, and she's never left my side. Doesn't like cars, doesn't like anything about when it comes to street racing. I'm not allowed to own a Honda Civic. we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not allowed. If I mention an EF, nope. It's not even a question. I want a divorce. I'll roll home with the EF. It's over. It's over that quick.
That's your jam, the EF?
That's yeah. That's
Hell yeah.
what I basically broke into the Honda world with, as a tech.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but when I finally got tired of playing with the Nissans, and I had my first job that I had worked through, and they got. Basically, they gave me a shot. I wasn't a good tech. I had a lot of street racing experience, but they gave me a shot. And within 4 months, I was the lead fabricator there. I was the lead exhaust guy with 4 months experience. And I was doing like 4.6 drops, C-notches, turbo kits. Anything he would let me rip on, I would rip on it. Doing all the shit to my car all the time, making turbo manifolds. Anything I could do. Like, it didn't matter. I've always been that way. Like, whatever, if you want to shine somewhere, do what nobody else wants to do. Make yourself, you know, invaluable to the company. And I always did that. Nobody wanted to do like gear jobs. Nobody wanted to do, you know, the dirty work.
Yeah.
And I was always down for it. I thrived on it. You know, I thrived on, I found my value there. Like, I found worth in my work. And through this company, I used to do, like I said, a lot of 4.6 drops. And there was a point where we started just doing the rears of these trucks, and they were all Federales, right? They have Federale plaques on the A-pillar, right where the VIN is.
Okay.
They cover the VIN. As in Mexico, you know, Federale cop or not, you don't think the two are much different. A lot of times, you know, they're both on the grind. And I came in one day and I had just bagged a truck. Like, I used to do a couple a day, and this truck was stripped. I left it that night, and I was set it up for air pressure check and everything before we delivered to the client. And there's a Federales in Mexico, and the truck was stripped. And I was like, why is that truck stripped? Like, I kind of knew what was going on at this point. And I confronted the boss. I'm like, why is the truck, why'd you even have me put it together? He's like, don't worry about it, go put it together. And I was like, all right, whatever. You know, growing up, like I said, I don't ask questions. You know, you learn at a certain point, you just don't ask questions. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, well, when the law is concerned, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Right? So I started having a moral dilemma with this. And I'm not getting paid. Like, there was times where, like, well, you can take that nitrous kit, or you can go hustle that to get my paycheck.
Okay, everybody, we're going to take a quick break for our sponsors, and we'll be back in 1 minute.
Yo, what's up, fool? Make sure you check out Downstar for all of your dress-up needs. Get it poppin' over here. We have all the kits for the K series, the B series, the transmission, the mounts, the engine, the Toro, baby. We have the hardware for the seats, for the stereo. We got it for the speakers. We got it for the lug nuts. We got it for the air valves. We got it for everything, dog. So you make sure you hit us up at downstarinc.com, or you call us up, fool. You can even text us, lame, 818-937-3472. Just shoot us a text and tell us what's up, dog. I need some fucking balls in this bitch. Hit us up, downstaring.com. Hey, and if you got an Instagram, slide in our fucking DM at Downstar. Wait, hit up the homie, Frank_Downstar. He's the one that takes care of all the DMs. Hit that level up and shoot him a message and he'll get you all taken care of real nicely.
So before we get ahead, let me try to get this straight. So you bring this, you get this truck in, and then you just realize that somebody stripped it.
No, I bagged the truck.
Okay, you bagged the truck.
I'm all over the place.
It's all good, bro.
They're just flashing
dots,
but I started welding and fabricating everything, doing 4.6 drops, airbags and all that, and I was bagging these trucks. And what they were doing is they were doing runs at night. And they were running weapons.
Okay, got you.
Which we came to find out later.
Got you.
So
got
I
you.
quit.
Okay.
I wasn't getting paid, right? And like the one thing about having a wife, or we weren't married at the time, but having a girl, is if you're gonna be gone, you better come home with some money.
Yeah.
Like there's no, either way. If you're gonna go out and do business, come home with some money. And the money he was running out of money. He was doing some shady stuff, and I kind of knew what I signed up for. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
So I quit. Like I quit on the spot. there was an import shop that had opened close by that was straight up imports. And it was all like street racing shit. And it turned out to be the biggest engine distributor on the West Coast. Eventually we got there.
Yeah.
But anyways, I wanted to go work for them. I wanted to go, just do Honda shit, do not so much Honda stuff. I wasn't into Hondas yet. I was still on my Nissan thing. And eventually my Scirocco, I got in Volkswagens, which is where this all began. But I quit. He put a gun to my chest on the sidewalk. He's like, "You're not going anywhere. I brought you up, and all this bullshit." And I'm just like, "You're not gonna shoot me here on the street. You're not gonna do shit." And I dipped. And 3 weeks later, they got raided, and they broke everybody's boxes open. He got 12 years. What up, Glenn? He's out now. He got rolled up, lost the shop, lost everything. They seized his home, everything, and he gave me a shot. I appreciate it. The way he handled things wasn't normal, but in the end, it gave me the opportunity to have the skill set to go to this new spot. And what got me in this new spot was my welding skills.
Yeah. And
my ability to do exhaust really quick. I wouldn't say it was the nicest shit around.
Yeah.
But it wasn't going to rattle. You weren't going to come back, and, it did its job.
So when you started at the new shop, what age are you?
23.
Okay.
23, and just doing full street racing. This is a time when there's 5 spots in San Diego. There's 10,000 cars. I want to say out like all at once, and it's deep. I mean, it's so deep, and you have to understand the dynamic at this time in the automotive industry beyond street racing. We had all those clients, but being an exhaust guy at that time was a very lucrative industry. There was no EPA mandated material to prolong your exhaust life. So whether you liked it or not, eventually you were going to come see me, and I was going to get paid. So that was kind of the basis of getting good at that and having my other skill set and, knowing what it takes to make power, basically. So eventually they mandated a 409 stainless steel, which you see nowadays, which is all brown. And people are like, "Oh, that's steel." No, it's a high carbon stainless that rises to the surface and it stops rotting at that point. It only comes out with heat, not the weather. So that kind of killed the industry there. And then the police started cracking down really, really heavy, where you couldn't even be within 100 yards of a race spot. But that was kind of later.
Yeah.
But anyways, I got this job, and the dude, there was a guy I worked with at the first place. This place called Redline Auto Effects. He was the lead tech at this new spot, and they wanted to fire him. So they created a position for me in the front. Last place I want to be, right? Put me in a collared shirt. I'm not refined. I'm not clean cut. That song, Clean Cut American Kid. That's kind of why I don't fit at a throttle. No.
Yeah.
But, I go over, and these are some nice guys and real genuine dudes. But like when it comes to childhood, I know like there's differences, right? I'm not even pinpointing them, but that's just kind of the way I see it. But basically I spent a month in the front, selling parts and running we had Nopi, we had 3 pages in every magazine out there. So we had a full warehouse, fully stocked. And I got to know the parts catalog really well. We were really heavy newspeed vendors. So if you had a hatch, you come in, you were either going to get a race spring or a sports spring. It just depends on how aggressive you want to go. And then we were banging Tenzo parts out. Tenzo R wheels. I don't know if that's too old or what.
I've heard of them before, but
they were everywhere. I mean, we were selling multiple sets a day. So I'm, busting tires. We're selling BH, ZC swaps like crazy because, ZC was the number one direct replacement.
Yeah.
And a lot of CRXs, which are now gone because they've been crushed.
Yeah.
But it was basically, I got on that grind of, paying my time up front while they got rid of this dude in the back. And eventually they let the guy go.
Yeah.
And I got the position, rolled my toolbox in, and then basically took over. Started doing all the fab work. Started doing everything you would do to a Honda back then. I mean, it just depends on what kind of guy you are. They roll up, they're going to have springs and side markers, maybe Altiza taillights, and that would be like your street car guy, right?
Yeah.
Or then you have the kid who went too far and popped his shit, and his dad's like buying him a ZC motor to get the car back on the road. Or then you have like the gritty turbo kit guys, and then you have the full swap guys. So I'm running the gauntlet with everything to do with this. And while we're doing it, there are no mount kits for EF. Like we couldn't get them, or I didn't understand why we didn't have them, but I would land one engine mount whenever I do a swap, and I would make everything else. I'd make the shift linkage, I'd make everything but the axles. You just get B axles, pop them in. And then I think I remember hearing you saying you had an HF at one point. 91.
Yeah, EF, 91
EF,
SI.
But there was an HF designation. No, you had an SI.
Yeah.
So you had a
91 SI.
4-injector car, but a lot of the cars were 2-injector cars.
Okay.
So you had to convert them over to 4-injector to run a B series. So you had to wire a full, injector side harness and make them run. And at that point, I could do a whole Honda harness like off the top of my head. I didn't need any manual. I could pin a whole ECU out, and I just started busting out 3, 4, 5 swaps a week, and I was on a commission. So 40% of everything I did, I got a cut from. So I was hustling.
Damn, that's a good percent.
Well, yeah, it was. Our labor rate was like $45.
Yeah.
Nowadays that's not even a third of most, upstanding businesses. And basically one day, what got me into the Honda thing, excuse me, my buddy built Turbo B Series, and took me for a ride. And you ever been, when a car is fast enough where you just giggle?
Yeah.
You're just like, it's just roller coaster
It's
shit,
fun,
right?
yeah.
Well, it's fun. And I got hooked.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting rid of that car and the payment and all that, and I bought a EF on blocks that had gotten stolen. It was just a shell. And I built that car from basically, I didn't even buy an engine from us. So I had basically developed my B series skills at that point, and the fabricator skills. And to give you an idea with this car, it had a blown head. And in one weekend, I blew it up Friday night, single cam. I keep bumping this shit. And the next day, I fixed the head, popped it again on nitrous, turboed it, blew that up. That night, we put a single cam VTEC in it, blew it up. Next day, I'd already bought a swap, an intercooler core, AFC.
Yeah.
AFC, whatever, the VTEC AFC. And I had a Mugen computer in the car, and that's why I kept blowing it up, because there was no rev limiter. I'd run it till 11, or whatever. I didn't care. I wanted to get to my B, right? So we went out, and that Friday night, we had a sponsored event at the track. And I ran everybody down. This was when they would give gaps and, the bracket race.
Yeah.
And we won. I went to my boy's house, left, and the motor blew up, and that's what provoked all these head changes. So none of that worked. I ended up blowing up all those motors, and by Sunday, I started in on the B swap. Monday morning, I showed up with a Turbo B Series at work. So, this was the type of shit we, didn't leave my boy's house, and basically just straight up went to work on it. Like if my car didn't run, I just couldn't exist. Like I had to have that part of my life, the street racing side of it.
Now, at this time, how's the family dynamic going?
Same. It's going well.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law, there's a whole other story about my mother-in-law I'm not going to get into, but she's really, our relationship is priceless now because of it. But at that time, you have to understand my wife wasn't necessarily my first pick as far as what I imagined my wife to be, or like a person I'd be with. It came over a period of time and an understanding of who she was as a person and her ability to be trusted and these values. And don't get me wrong, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But she's 5 foot tall and Mexican. You know, like this isn't like in my mind what I pictured, but this is, you know, who I fell in love with.
Yeah.
So, you know, basically it was hard then. You know, our lifestyles were so different. You know, a good team is everything. Like you need to be everything I'm not, right? And that's what she is with me.
Yeah.
So, I get way off track here.
So at this time, what's the relationship with your son?
It's regulated.
Mm-hmm.
I basically would go over to see him. I could have done more. Like, you know, I was pretty young and selfish. Mm-hmm. I was definitely present in his life, you know, on a as much as I could be.
Yeah.
I did whatever I possibly could, but the family, you know, kind of kept me at arm's length for a period of time. A lot of it came from a fight that happened the first time they met me was in the house, and I was involved, and there was some other drama there. But her dad has always been this super chill and forgiving guy, thank God. And, would kind of make allowances for me, like, you know, hey, it's all good, don't worry, don't trip on her. He'd always say that, don't worry about her. And she's like tripping hard on me, and to this day he still does it. Like my wife will be like, don't worry about it, just whatever. So
the Mexican women are feisty, bro. That's why.
Yeah.
And the Mexican guys are, don't even worry about it.
Straight
just
up.
chill.
It's a good quality. Sometimes it's too much, but you know.
Sometimes I'll see my mom yell at my dad, and my dad just laughs it off. I'm like, damn, mom, chill out.
Yeah. My kids do that now. And I always told them, like, don't get involved. Don't get involved. But the other, like a few months ago, my son stood up for me, and I was like, hell yeah, I needed that. Like, finally, like, I got back up, right? You know, so everything kind of manifested the way it should.
Yeah.
I didn't deserve it then. You know, I didn't deserve the trust with their grandson, my son. He doesn't have, neither one of my kids have blue eyes. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, when you look at my wife's olive skin, kind of like you have olive skin, you're very light skin.
Yeah.
And, you know, he pretty much came out looking just like me with brown eyes. Better looking.
Yeah.
But, you know, he came out this amazing boy, and he was, you know, the family just took him in and loved him to death, you know.
Was it the first grandson?
First grandson.
Got you.
First grandson. And that was his whole life, was that his family. My family was not present.
Yeah.
You know, like I've buried everybody that I've needed to bury, that I hope I needed to bury.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, it you go through life. That's part of it. Is you raise a kid and you say goodbye to people that matter.
Yeah.
But it, you know, it ended up being a necessary evil, like not having that access. You know, because it really provoked me to go out and get it and make something of myself and make changes that I had to make. We were bound by this child now, you know, which we kind of planned, because it was like all we wanted to do was be with each other. Like it was a pretty heavy deal. And what's funny is, like, if you look back, she was one of my boy's girlfriends. Like, that's how I got to know her. And he didn't treat her that good. He didn't treat her good at all. And I was with her friend, and, like, you know, this was what's dope. This is what the kids out there don't understand, is you could have, like, girlfriends here, and then you could have girlfriends here, and then you could have girlfriends here. And when we were kids, we were doing that. Obviously, we weren't going to, like, crazy lengths. We were just kicking it with these girls. But she had certain set of values that didn't really align, and she was just down for those values. And I had this gnarly crush on her this whole time. I used to like carry her around, and even when they were together, like, you know, we were just kicking it. And it wasn't until like a year later after they broke up, I called him like, hey, this happened, you know, if it's cool with you, you know, I think this is something we're going to try. And that's how it came to be.
Yeah.
So I got to know her long before she was my girlfriend. And I knew that's what I wanted. So anyways, that's pretty much, there's a lot more turbulence down the road, but that's how it all started. And again, the car thing was all mixed up in that.
Yeah. So you get back to the B series, you get back to the shop turbo B series.
Street racing.
Street racing. At this time, are you infatuated with Hondas, like the Honda culture, or it's just to you this car's fast?
Cars have never been anything to me other than a tool to go out and exercise your demons,
Gotcha.
so to speak. Like I said before, I'm very competitive. So when I was able to, you know, experience a platform like the B series, what it would take to make any other car do what that Turbo B did was way beyond my means, right? And we're talking about or in the late 90s, if you had a 13-second car, people don't understand how fast a 13-second car really is. You had a fast car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were smashing. People were going to know who you were. There was no media. They would just remember, where's it? There he is. You roll up to the spot, you get out of your car, and just everybody's there. You know, it was real life.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The same heads every week. There he is. And then they bring their boys, like, there he is. You know, and it's like, who are you going to race tonight? Like, who whatever.
Yeah.
And you just roll up. And you were only as good as the last week. And if you went out like the week before and smashed on everybody, then everybody was going to be waiting for you the next week. So you had to come, you know, back your title up. And that's just kind of how it went.
And that was you?
That was me. I mean,
Toretto?
I wouldn't say Toretto, but definitely people knew who I was.
Yeah.
You know, people knew my cars, all of them. The second car I had, I won't even go into. I didn't build it. I bought it from my mentor, and it came with like a bunch of different setups, down to a pro stock nitrous setup that I would run. But you knew the Southside boys because we lived on the border.
Yeah.
You know, and we would roll out to like Mira Mesa, it's like a 20-mile drive, and we were pretty well known. You know, we were engine guys. We weren't like just putting intakes on our car and doing whatever. We were building the heads, milling them, you know, porting them, running timing until we ran out. And we were finding these, you know, sweet spots and running as much nitrous as we possibly could. I mean, you get to a certain point where it would just blow the ignition out on the stock ignition stuff. But yeah, that's kind of where it all really took off. And I said before, that car is a sore spot.
Yeah,
that was a time where I ended up I was late on my rent. I had an apartment by work. Obviously I was out on my own. And I left my car on the street one night. I had all my tools in it that I had to like work on the car, which were the same tools I needed for work, and it got stolen. And I had the ECU in the house. I had like 4 fuel cutoffs. Like ECU, I would take the car apart every time I got out of it.
Gotcha.
And it was gone. I came out the next morning, and I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I hit my alarm, and I'm like, what the fuck? My car's gone. And I was having a little beef with the manager, and he changed the code so I couldn't park it in there. So basically, all that street racing and all that time and energy into that car, which was just more of an obsession, it all went away right there. I had to start over. I had since then I'd gotten married, wife moved in, wife moved out, because I was street racing. Like I was always working on my car, or I was street racing, or I was at work, or I was making side money to build my car. And you have to understand, everything on the car was handmade. Like everything was like either cannibalized from a car from the junkyard, or whatever I could pillage at work and refit to make it work on my shit. That's what I did. And the car was fast. The car made 377 to the tire.
Whoa!
It'd pull your ass into the next lane. Never had a LSD in it.
Yeah.
And it had a full. I ended up doing a full Wings West kit, carbon hood, 18x9 Tenzo shoes. Huge wheels on it. It was just the most gangster looking hatch going down the highway, and it had a ton of power to, for a front wheel drive car then.
That's a lot now.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
For just a regular street car, definitely.
Yeah, especially one tuned on an AFC,
Yeah.
I put big injectors on it, and I would just run it until it would lump, and then I would pull fuel out, and I would just tune it going down the highway.
Yeah.
And as long as it didn't blow up, it was all good, and it never blew up. It got stolen. That night, 8 Civics in the city of Chula Vista got stolen within 3 hours. They just came in and swooped.
Just like tow trucks or what?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was a semi. This is back when, we're coming to, the height and the end of it all.
Uh-huh.
And I had bought the engine from another shop. It was. Have you ever heard of Pan Auto San Diego?
A little bit, but
it's not nothing good. But there was another Pan Auto down in South Bay that eventually had to change its name to Ingenuity because of that other Pan Auto. The dude eventually jumped off a bridge. He had enough.
Whoa.
Shit got south. A bunch of bad news here, right?
yeah.
So anyways, he sold me my intercooler, which is core, my swap, engine, trans, ECU, and a gate for $425. And I used to carry B-Series. I used to be able to just carry them. This is before I broke my back, when I was fit, when I was young. When I was still, 6'3", 200 something pounds. And I used to just I carried it to my car, threw it in my car. He's like, "What's your address?" "You need my fucking address. You don't need shit from me, you're not getting shit from me."
Were you already up on game about thieves and things like that?
I mean, I was, but at the same time, I knew what to look for on the motors.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the motors, and for all intents and purposes, he had piles. It was literally a pile. There was no rhyme or reason. There was just a pile. You'd be like, "Go grab one." And, back then, you could get them like that.
Mm-hmm.
We would order 300-400 motors at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We had a 50,000 square foot warehouse with every engine you can imagine, 2-stroke imports, from Japan. It was like Mecca.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize what we had. I was walking by those SRs all that time, and they were never even in my range of rear-wheel drive. Not until later when I got really tired of not having traction. So,
yeah.
It was just this crazy time to be a part of the Honda community, and I was running the national line. We sold around the country, and I would be on the phone all day, with the notepad, and I would be drawing out what they would be telling me. I would be trying to figure out where they were at. They would get their swaps. Say they have a 2-injector car. And I would walk them through the whole wiring harness, what shift linkage. If you don't even really need a shift linkage, you can just, if you had a welder, you could take care of it.
Yeah.
And eventually wrote instructions, which if you did a swap in the early 2000s and you went online, it was probably something I wrote. I spent so much time on the phone walking people through swaps, and I could diagnose a B series, if it was a swap related issue, over the phone or even from across the parking lot. I knew everything about that motor. I made it a point to know more than anybody else. So
Now at this time, you being in the Honda community, is there anybody that's still around now that was around back then?
That's still in the cars?
Well, I mean, still in the community.
Yeah, there was I don't know if you've ever heard of the team. It was Evil, EVOL.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a dude, to this day, I've known this dude for 20 something years. I still only know his first name. This is an OG street racer. His name's Lavelle. And he used to tune at Ingenuity Pan Auto. He had a dual carb hatch that was so gutted you could touch it and the whole car would it was literally just a tray and a built 13-to-1 dual carb motor.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just go out and wreck people. The car ran 12.4 on the motor, so nobody was touching this dude. He's still around. He runs now he's driving a Camaro. You get to a point where you just get you move on. I don't think I'll ever get there because there's a record I want to break, but he's since moved on and just builds motors and plays with it. TB was coming on then. You know, he was actually TB stands for Taliban.
Okay.
You know, it was like a joke. It was like it was a nickname.
Taliban?
Taliban.
Oh shit.
Right?
Yeah.
This big Saudi dude like came out of nowhere and starts building these 900 horsepower fucking cars and blowing them up like 3 a week, lifting heads and 4 trannies, right? Like who is this dude, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like phasing out the import side, but that dude came on the scene and just started making big power. Like, I mean, we were started to see 6, 7, 8, and then eventually down the road, I mean, I've seen TB make 980 horsepower for 30 pulls on a dyno on her dyno one day. Never break a damn part and go to the track and pop it. Like, I've seen him do amazing shit. And for him to basically break the record recently the way he did, it was a beautiful thing to see. If you know his story and how much that dude and doesn't talk about it. He's the most humble dude you'll meet. No, you don't know anything about him. Yeah, he's an OG. Like, that dude's been around forever. But compared to us then, he was a new guy. But he was willing to go further, you know.
So that's the TB Auto Works?
Yeah.
With that white Integra B series.
Yep. That's
it. Just made like 800 or something.
No, I didn't make 800.
No, I'm sorry. It was 8.
Made 5 1/4, ran 872, like 164.
God damn. Where was that even at?
I don't know. It was at that shootout race or whatever.
Was it at World Cup?
It was a World Cup. Yeah.
Cup. Shit. Okay.
So he was on Nitro, so he was able to, you know.
Got
there was no rules.
Yeah, that's the first time that I ever heard about them was that, because when that happened, it was just all over social media. You know?
Well, with the San Diego, like the OG Honda dudes, like TB's the dude. And actually, I just sold him my flow bench. I had a old head flow. There's a whole other story here with Busy Moto and all that, but I finally. This flow bench was a gift when I moved in the shop. The shop I have now 20 years ago was a cylinder head shop that I worked in as a kid around that time of the street racing. Yeah, so like I went back with my wife and we were looking at units and all these things. And I remember looking down on the floor and there was this blue spot, right? And it was when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, young adult, I put that blue spot there when we were painting a line around the shop, when we were dialing the shop in. And I started thinking, I called him. I'm like, what unit were you in? And he told me, and it's my unit.
No shit.
Yeah, it's a full circle going,
wow.
Working everywhere in San Diego, all through the industry. I've never been employed in anything else but aftermarket automotive, all the way back to where it started. And it was just like this moment where you start seeing the connection and the relay. Like, you know, call it answered prayers or whatever, but everything's coming to fruition, right? Here's my shop.
Yeah.
And it was the same shop that I used to daydream in back as a kid. And anyways, I went and TB always jokes with me. He calls me because not many people know me, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of like it that way. I wish it was better for business, but honestly, nobody needs to really know me for what I do.
Yeah.
If you need to know me, somebody will let you know. But he always calls me, you're like the best kept secret in San Diego. Not the best kept secret, but you're just like this secret you keep to yourself. He's like, why don't you get into this Honda shit? You know, like everybody's going all-wheel drive, and I'm like, I'm not going down that road. Like, I really don't want to go down that road.
And that was a recent conversation?
That was a recent conversation. I would say a year ago.
Okay.
I mean, not that recent. It was before Jason released his kit, long before that.
So it's probably when that Steve-O came out with the 8-second all-wheel drive EG.
I would say within a month.
Got you. Because that's what really set off the whole all-wheel drive stuff. I think there was a couple cars that were doing it before, but the full-time fab out in Jersey.
Yeah, we follow each other.
Yeah. That car, it just like it changed things a lot. It was very apparent. And me, you know, I'm from the outside looking in, and even to me, it was just like, what the hell did he just do? You know, seeing that car just out of nowhere come and just jump into the 8s and just like going lower and lower, you know, and that just really ignited the spark for the all-wheel drive stuff. And then you have guys like Jason who capitalized on that opportunity for sure.
Yeah. It was amazing to see that happen. You know, it was something I didn't I mean, we went through phases, right? We went through wheelie bars. We went through all these little things that, you know, to try to get that car to hook.
Yeah.
So eventually when someone did do it, I was like, I really had to look and made sure that car was all-wheel drive, because like I kind of took it personal for a minute. Like, well, why haven't we done this out here?
Yeah.
You know, but in the end, you know, it's all-wheel drive. And that's not the first. I mean, 5-6 years ago, I've driven all-wheel drive Civics, 500 horsepower. They just didn't. I don't know why they didn't go any further than that.
There's just some time where something just clicks.
Right.
You know, it's I mean, even with us, with the hardware stuff, we didn't invent dress up hardware. You know.
No, I know when I first saw Downstar, other than your ad, because I thought it was brilliant.
That one right there.
That one right there.
Yeah.
I thought that was the sickest ad I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Honestly, the context, everything it was on point.
Yeah.
And I was like, second thought was fuck. Because I've been making those for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I still make them to this day. There's a whole market you're missing. We need to talk about.
Yeah,
later,
definitely.
But we to this day we make them for pre-runners. You know, everything's glass in off-road. So we machine out hardware.
Yeah.
You know, so I used to sit there and crank them out. And once I found out they were available, aside from brands I used to stock, and I had another import shop. There's just too much to go over, but I used to stock like Energy, where they give you 5 and you had the nut serve.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't even remember what they cost. I would just grab them because it was my inventory. I didn't do the ordering. My partner did. But when I saw your stuff, I was like, it was just one of those moments again where I was like, the fabricator in me was like, you fucking missed that one, didn't you? You know, but then I respected it. It's like I respected it from day one, because that shit we need. I don't want to sit there on a lathe and make those when I just got on a run. Like you sent me a care package not long ago, and man, I can't tell you the difference between going to my box and having a better product, because I'm not going to have your radiuses and stuff in there. I'm not going to. It's not on my itinerary, right? If someone wants it, sure, but I can go in there and grab it and take care of somebody, and I do it as like to provoke them to do more. You know, someone comes in and they're like, that thing's a piece of shit, you know, and they're starting with you. You're the first person to see this project. If you take something simple as like the apron bolts or whatever, and you start the process for them, it could be the catalyst that turns this build into something you're going to see, you know, at the best shows, or, you know, the fastest racer next year, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad that you see it like that, because that's how I see it too. You know, it's the things that we provide is nothing more than just more opportunity for somebody to take their build to that next level.
Right.
Because when I was building my car, that opportunity wasn't around.
Right.
And if it was a kept secret that like the elite Honda guys didn't want to give out, or it was just ridiculously priced where there wasn't a market for it.
Right.
And it was just like the all-wheel drive stuff. You just see the opportunity. And, you know, I come from being a hustler ever since I've grown up. So to me, it clicks so easy. And I just think like, wow, nobody else, this hasn't clicked to anybody else. But if you think about it, it's just like, oh, it's just nuts and bolts. No one cares. But dude, there's a market for everything.
There really is.
Everything.
It's just, again, having the right person behind the brand. That's kind of where I come short. There's all these things where I've always sat down and like, what do I want to make? Yeah. You know, and you're very active on media, you know, and I see you going after it every day, you know, where a lot of people are too cool to start at, you know, you ask a lot of questions to keep the rhythm going, and, you know, I answer them a lot of times. Yeah. It's just entertaining and out of respect, just like whatever. I don't have my guard up, or I'm not trying to be anything to anybody. So, you know, I spread the love to the people I want to show love to. So, you know, it's like I see you doing all that, and I'm not that outgoing. Yeah. You know, sometimes I use media as like just a third, like a person I talk to, and it's like sometimes I forget that there's other people on there. Like I'll just start texting, you know, just post whatever, end up deleting it, or, you know, because I'm self-conscious about it. For what? I don't know. I just don't go after it. Yeah. And I've long stopped posting car stuff, because if I post car stuff, somebody's going to message me. Like they're going to interrupt my private time, you know, or I have builds in my shop that are for a lot of reasons, they're still there. Like there's two. One's not so bad. The other one, man, it's been a nightmare for multiple reasons. Like you can't hook somebody up and expect it to be done instantly when you're out of pocket, right? So it's just this big old hustle, and I don't know. I see you doing it well, dude. I see you doing it well from the media side. I followed from day one, like your journey and where you go. You travel a lot, and I've seen like some of the things that you went through that, you know. And I think it's just your kindness being mistaken. You know, like at times, you know, people do that, and I think circling back to why I don't do it is that a lot of times, you know, you're kind to somebody and they're wiping your dick off when you walk away because they think that, you know, they're that important. Yeah. You know, not like you just don't have the capacity to be nice because you want to be nice, you know?
Yeah. I think that the way that I am now, how I am in social media, how I'm very approachable, and I haven't always been like this. And that's why I can relate to people like you that just want to stay in the background, that are more of like a recluse, want to be by themselves. I've been there so many times. So I feel like the weaknesses that other people would have called it, I feel like they're strengths now because I've been on both sides. Right. I'm able to interact with somebody who's the loud person and, you know, the person in front of the camera and the one that's, you know, wants to be noticed, and I can interact with the person who's in the back watching it all. So I feel like that's kind of like my strength, being able to see both sides, just like yourself, you know, you coming from that childhood, and then being not in that lifestyle now, but you still know how to handle those situations. Where if some other person would have, hey, I'm quitting, you're not fucking quitting, with a gun to them, you know, that might have turned them into that person's, you know, okay, now I have to do everything that this person said. They called my bluff. Right. They called my bluff. I have to do everything. But the way that you were able to handle that is because of what you've been through. Yeah. You know?
I could agree with that, you know, and I definitely what you said is the absolute truth, you know, and in the end, you get to a point where you start leaving those childish things behind, you know, and a lot of the pride never goes away, you know, but the ignorant pride, you know, or I would say ego.
Yeah,
you know, where,
definitely.
You know, where it's not based on any fact other than it's you or mine.
This is my DNA.
Yeah, it's all of ours. I mean, your ego. We're driven by ego. Yeah, you know, that's what we do. Yeah. Especially dealing with the younger guys. You know, you especially, I should say, my clients, because I don't really work for the average off the street person. Like, all of my clients are either a race team or they're a company. So I have multiple ongoing jobs even now. Like, I have projects that I do with Ricky, Rick, all the throttle boys. Then I have like a Porsche company that I deal with, and then I have my short course racing stuff, and I'm just all over the place with these people. Yeah, you know, and you just kind of have to just not be a thorn in their side, handle your business, and get out of there. You know, like,
I really feel like it's a skill, and you have to know how to maneuver in this industry. And if not, you're gonna get taken advantage of, and you're definitely gonna get your feelings hurt. Yeah. And it's been a really long road for me, you know, in the last 10 years being in this industry, having to decipher it all and having to figure everything out. Right. And just coming to the realization now that, one, I don't have to ask anybody permission. I don't have any OGs. There's nobody that helped me get to this position, you know, gave me this opportunity. And two is, like, at the end of the day, the only people that are going to be there for me is my family. And that is the hardest fucking pill to swallow. Yeah. And that is something that I had to realize, because I put too much weight in so many different relationships that are very fair weather. And when the storm comes in, you realize the only people that are there is your family, and the other people, maybe they'll send a text, a call, or something like that, but it doesn't change their life.
Right.
If they don't hear from you in a week, in a month, it's all good. They'll see you at a show.
Yeah.
When we go to IBOC meet, H Day or something like that, SEMA, hey, how's everything? But that's all the interactions we have. But when you're going through like rough times, only people that are there is family. And to me, that's where my loyalty goes.
100%.
And I'm so much more careful with my energy and how much care and thought and weight I put into these relationships, because more than not, I've seen what I mean to them.
Right.
And maybe in their head, they're not understanding what they're putting off, and that's their journey. They're going to have to go down their journey, and they're going to figure it out. And whether they lose relationships or not, that's on them. But it's just on me, is that, these relationships I build with people, whether I'm sending them stuff or we're promoting together, I need to know that, look, Frank, if something happens, that person's not going to be there. That person is here because it works good together right now. Once it doesn't work together, they're gone. They don't care about you. And, just growing up, I really didn't have many people that cared about me. I didn't have many friends or anything like that. Like I could relate to a lot of that you're saying, you're just by yourself doing your own thing. And
it was by choice to a reason.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it was to choice, and maybe it was my downfall that I wasn't very outgoing. I wasn't out trying to make friends or anything like that, but I got comfortable being by myself. Mm-hmm. And then once you start getting this new popularity, getting these new friends, people want to be friends with you and this and that, it makes you feel different. It makes you feel like important and wanted. Right. But that's not real.
Right.
Like, I still, at this time, 10 years later, I still feel like it's just me, and I still feel lonely because I don't even have my close friends that I've grown up with or been around the last 10, 15 years. They don't call me for go to dinner, to go to the movies, to go to lunch or anything like that. If anything, it's always me, But the one that does is my wife.
Right.
Want to go do something, go on a trip or whatever, my wife is the one that's always there. So that's number one. Everything else is second, and it's just it's a hard realization.
It is, and you're definitely beyond me in that respect. And honestly, I couldn't have said it any better. At the end of it all, it really comes down to those relationships, like your significant other.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of friends I've lost in the last 3 years because I wouldn't build a car for them, or I wouldn't finance their build, and God forbid I asked for money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is a hobby for a lot of people, and they think it's just as fun for us as it is for them. And really, you're in the way of me getting back to the people I really want to be with and the time I really want to spend. Not that I don't want to have relationships and spend time with people that are important to me. I do that.
Yeah.
But I do it in a work capacity. I do it where we're both making money, we're both benefiting. I'm going to be doing this regardless, and it doesn't take away from my family. For a long time, I fought that. And it's probably one of the biggest apologies I'll ever make to my wife, which I have multiple times, but she just didn't feel more important than the cars, than the racing. And, I can't say honestly that at those younger points in my career that she was. She was in my heart. But, you get tunnel vision. Like when you want to succeed or you get a shot, and you'll get another shot. I mean, that's one thing I've learned. You can't just grab onto everything that comes in and, especially people like, oh my God, this person's so important. Nobody's that important.
Yep.
Nobody. I can tell you, I don't need to add anything to what you said. You said it perfectly. But I go through the same thing, and I'm glad you said it because you read my mind.
It's rough, man. It definitely is. And that's one conversation Mickey and I had, and I think that it really comes from being around, older age and just acquiring this knowledge and wisdom is just that, like, these relationships that we build, even you and I, at the end of the day, it's a respect thing. Mm-hmm. It's not about what I could get out of you, what you could get out of me. The right way,
right,
is a respect thing.
Yeah, I think we had a little moment. I think I missed. I'm really bad at text, like returning, and I think I went a little sideways at you, and I was like, well, that came out wrong. Remember, we had to we had to reboot, and that was my bad. I'm sitting here tripping on Frank for something I do all the fucking time. And it wasn't anything like I was tripping. It came across that way.
Yeah, and
we addressed it right away.
If that was the older Frank, we wouldn't even be having this conversation now, because I would have let my ego get in the way. Yeah. But just for sometimes, especially, we haven't spent that much time together.
Not really. We've had dinner.
So you have to set those boundaries. And for me, that was something that maybe I wouldn't have even said in the past, but I would have held it against you. Mm-hmm. It was like, you know what? Set these boundaries right now. And if this stops you from fucking with me, then okay, I have to set my boundaries, and it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the past and things that I've experienced, right. But to get over that and to keep going, and for us both to be mature about it, like, that's awesome. And I wish that so many other relationships that I had could have went like that, but whether it was the way that I handled it or the other person or whatever, that awkward couple text never happened, and that turned into, you don't exist in my life anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that's the way that it should have gone. I don't know if that person shouldn't be in my life anymore, but it's neither here nor there. You figure out the way that you want to navigate now, and then you just keep going, but you can't look back and say, I wish I would have navigated differently back then.
Right.
Because,
it's impossible, and it's something you learn as you go. Like, it really comes from having something to offer, right? Like, not everybody comes to the table with something. And for me, I can come in and I can train you with a certain set of skills, or give you a certain set of skills, and you're never going to call me again. Like, that's the way it is. So do I go in with that mentality, like, I'm going to make sure that this dude's, bonded to me by, lack of information? No, I'm not going to do that, because that's not how I am.
Yeah.
Back in the day, hell yeah, I wouldn't even have bothered sharing any info with you, or where I get this or where I get that, because it's not in our nature. Like, as a street racing culture in the beginning, it was more of like a gangbanging culture. It was cliques, there were guns, it was serious. You were going to box, there was shit that was going to go down. Your car was going to get jacked. Like, it was serious business. You didn't flaunt your cars, you were secretive about these things. Every now and then you show off or whatever. You go to import show off and see everybody showing their shit off. But as a street racer, it just wasn't our nature to be that way. But when you have a lot to offer, this is kind of where there's a separation with young people and fame, mm-hmm. right? Oftentimes you can misconstrue your relationship because they don't know. They have a lot to offer in the form of numbers that I'm not interested in. My typical client isn't going to come from your average YouTube channel, right? Because it's a very niche thing, and it's a word of mouth thing. But somebody who just wants the fame and the numbers is going to take someone like anybody that we've mentioned, or like TJ, for example, and use them for all they're worth. Yeah. So you have to understand that someone like that, their guard's up way high. Yeah. Off the bat, they've made their friends, and they're not looking for more. Yeah. And that's I think the best thing and the best approach for someone in his position, which I respect it too. Like, there's been times where I've been really grateful to him. There's also been times where, I've totally not understand what he has going on, but I still respect it 100%. What I do a lot of is I give thank yous. Like, to whoever hires me, whoever does it, I don't care who you are. I'm gonna probably message you the next day with a very grateful text, because I didn't do that before. you know, and more importantly, I didn't feel that before.
Yeah.
So now a lot of times it's like, man, I get to live this amazing life. I travel the country. I get to deal with people that my kids, that's how TJ Hunt happened for me, was my son mentioned him. And I was like, you think he's cool? No, like, I mean, he was a customer of ours,
Yeah.
you know, at HG. And I'm bringing this up, but we're just talking about people and personalities and how it affects it. But he called me one day after we closed HG with Heinz Keats Auto House, another place I worked, but I was very reluctant. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't something that I didn't want to put myself out there. I didn't want to be on this younger person. It was nothing against him. I didn't know him. But when my son thought it was cool, it was like a whole new feeling. Like my kids, they're talking about this at school.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I saw your dad or whatever. And like, no matter how hard I try, there's a point where TJ would, he throws you little favors, which I kind of didn't want. Like, I'm really big on my Instagram being my Instagram. I don't want your followers. Like, I really don't. I don't want a big audience. I want a good audience. Which doesn't mean a big audience won't be a good audience. But anyways, when my kid thought it was cool, I was like, what do you need? What do you need? And he just needed tips and help with, I showed up with everything that you would put a body kit on, and that was it, really. And I was just like, whenever you have a drop, give my kid clothes. So, I mean, that's literally how it started. Whenever he would drop anything, my kids had everything that he sold.
Now, at this time, do you remember his sub count?
No, I've never. To be honest, I don't have any.
Gotcha.
I don't sub on YouTube or nothing, but I know when it was. It was like a year before Mickey, maybe a little less. So I want to say his car was still hideous, his BRZ. Mm-hmm. No offense, but he had these fenders on it that were like knack a duck kind of pulled in fenders, and it was like this lipstick color, if you remember the car. This was pretty early on before a built motor, and I want to say he was under 300.
Got you.
So somewhere in there, and he used to come in the shop, and I'm notorious for having my earphones in the shop. Mm-hmm. And even if they're off, like, I don't really, if you call me, I'm just pretending my shit's playing. Like, I zone out.
Yeah.
And it's for my sake and your sake. I'm not going to kind of start a conversation I can't fix, but he would come in and film, and I was like, what the fuck is this kid doing? And I didn't really have any interest until I pulled his car out one morning. We were pulling Lambos, Lamborghinis, Mercedes-Benz out. That's like the cheapest car in there was a GTR. And then it's like, why is this FRS here? Yeah. Who is this kid? And he had a LZ BMX sticker. And the BMX, I was like, he rides BMX. I don't know who LZ BMX is. Yeah. And basically that BMX, and then my kid saying that, I was like, okay, these are signs that this is a cool person to help. And that's kind of what started all of that. But he was bringing his car to the premier shop in SD. Like, we weren't cheap. Mm-hmm. Like, not even close to cheap. Probably the most expensive shop around, but our service was second to none. Yeah. Just our intake takes an hour for a car. I mean, it's a very thorough process. So I had respect for him right off the bat, because he was beyond his years on his picking of, who to use and how to operate. And again, that turnaround of, this kid is doing a lot of things that I don't know how to do, and he's doing them very effectively. And again, he became not this, I think he was 19 at the time, 20. I remember his 21st birthday. Okay. But it was this little thing about TJ that his head's on his shoulders, and I have a theory about it. And mm-hmm. it's basically being so far apart from his next sibling. Yeah. You're raised, very above your your grade level, and you learn very fast. And TJ's done that very well. But going on and working with him, I've learned basically how to hold your ground. He's really good at it. He's better at it than me. You know what I mean? And this last SEMA, to see it, even though we don't really talk, like, after my use was kind of done, though, I mean, I have, if he needs something, he knows I'm there. But when Mickey came in, there was like tension. right? These two old guys, and Mickey and I kind of have the same personality. I think if Mickey and I ever had a problem, we'd be out in the back and it would get handled and it'd be over.
Yeah.
Like that's how we would deal with it. And that's what I respect about Mickey. So when he came in, I noticed last time you guys talked about what TJ brought to Throttle, right?
Mm-hmm.
What to Mickey. I think what's often overlooked is what Mickey brought to TJ Hunt.
Definitely.
Because if you look at the build quality and the brands and the cars that started coming out of there at that time, I mean, I can't give him full credit. I mean, I'd like to say he was a huge part of it. The RX-7s and the quality of JDM cars that came out, it totally changed. Everything changed.
Yeah.
You know, because he had more consulting in there, and it wasn't, you know, all of that, but Mickey is a catalog for the import industry, you know, and it's that team. I'm happy to not be, you know, I'm loving to see what they're doing, and I know I couldn't fill that position.
Yeah.
There's no way. I'm just a fabricator, you know. I'm a tech. I do pretty much everything on a car, but, you know, beyond that, I fall short.
Yeah, Mickey is he's very skilled in not only automotive knowledge, but like I was saying, like life knowledge as well. And we kind of get each other on the whole relationship side of things. You know, sometimes I'll reach out to Mickey or he'll reach out to me, and it doesn't have anything to do with, you know, can you send me some parts or anything like that, you know? And even when I do send him parts, it's really appreciated.
Right.
And he makes it known because he knows on my side where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting this stuff for free. Right. You know, I'm getting it made and I'm paying for that, but I understand the value that they bring. Right. And it's a really good relationship, and it's good to have somebody like that appreciates things, and who knows, and I know what they bring to the table, and I know what they do for us, man. And if all it took was a text from TJ or from Mickey said, "Hey, can you send us some more?" and that's it, I'm perfectly fine with that, you know, because that's the industry that we're in, you know. Marketing helps out a lot. They have a really good way of marketing, getting my name out there, and we help them out with the parts. It's a good relationship. Anything else that comes out of that relationship to me is a bonus. Right. And just through Mickey, it's like you get a lot from him. Yeah. You know, a lot more than I expected, and a lot more than I get from a lot of people, and I appreciate that about him.
Right, and that's why I bring him up, is because I appreciate that part of him so much. He's very grateful. Like when we built his car, a lot of people would tag you once, and then all of a sudden, that's it. You get that one hit, and then it's whatever. But Mickey never forgets. Like he brought his RX-7 over at 7 in the evening. And 9 a.m. the next morning, he was leaving with a whole turbo kit we made. And not only because he chipped in, but I was willing to do that for him because that's the kind of guy he is. Yeah. You know? I can't say I would do that for really. I mean, there's very few people that I would do that for. It's really hard at this point to do all-nighters, and, you know, we're still doing them. So.
Even for Mickey to come out here and make the trip to do the podcast, maybe 4 months ago. It was a while ago already that he did the podcast with us, and that's why I appreciate you coming out here, because you guys come from the same area, and I know that's a trek, dude. I've made that drive before, and it's a long way, and I know that both of you guys have so much stuff that you have to get done, and for you to see the value in this podcast to even spend your time with it, dude, that makes me feel so good and appreciative, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad you do, and for me, like, I appreciate if I never did another interview or said anything again, I'd be fine with that because we did it, you know? Like, I was, last night I took my son to see Ford versus Shelby, that movie.
Oh, okay.
So we're walking out, and, you know, my 17-year-old, kids they suffer from being cool, right? You suffer from it when you're young. Unless you're just the kid who doesn't care, and that's where the cool starts, right?
Yeah.
So we're walking out, and I'm kind of. Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't.
So I won't ruin any of it for you, but there's a character in the movie that I can relate to heavily. And it was somebody who was really heavily involved with the development of that car and died in that car. And I'm walking out and I'm like really like it hit home. Even though I've heard the story, I've read the story. I worked for Ford Racing. I mean, like we reproduce Shelbys. I worked for JBA. So I'm extremely familiar with the brand, the car. And I basically turned to him when we're leaving, and I had this on my mind. Like, I'm self-absorbed, obviously, but this is a big deal for me. You know, it's not because of anything I care about with media. It's just the story needs to be told. And honestly, we haven't really covered much of the car stuff. But
Yeah.
I asked him, I go, what would you do? Like, what would you have me do as your dad? Like, would you rather me go out there and just bullshit him and not bullshit, but just give a basic, this is what we do, you know, blah, 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 or should I just tell it how it is? And my youngest son's not a follower. He's a pretty, very level-headed person. He's actually probably more level-headed than I am. And he just says, you know what, tell it how it is. Somebody's got to. You know, not everybody's story is fucking rainbows and this and that. He doesn't talk to me that way, but
Yeah.
you know, he said, you know, just tell it how it is, Dad. You know, tell what makes your story what it is. And I think at the end of the day, what my story is like, you know what, if you work hard enough, it's your success is relative to your beginning, right? So if you grow up with silver spoons and money and all these things, you're used to a certain level of living. And to be greater than that, you have to exceed that. Well, if you grow up with nothing, and now you have food on the table, you have a nice home, and you have everything you want, you've reached a level that is just as high as, you know, someone starting off at a higher level, you know. And it's just important that people understand that. The kids out there understand that. If you try hard enough and have patience, it will pay off.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in your time, and it's not going to be, you know, easy all the time. You're going to have mistakes, but if you don't go out there and make them, you're not going to get anywhere with it, you know, and eventually be somebody that's of worth, you know, that actually has value. Beyond the camera. When you meet them, you're just like, fuck this guy, you know, like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
I can't stand this guy. And there's only a few people that I really don't hate anybody.
Yeah.
It's not true. I hate some fucking people. But there's just some people that you meet and you're just like,
yeah,
how did this person get famous? Like, there's somebody really famous. I don't want to mention, but I met him and I'm sorry I did. I was like, dude, this is a bad situation. You know, where I think that's why I kind of do bring up the Mickey a lot, because I think we need more of them.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people need to see Mickey as more of the guy with the beard from Throttle. You know, that's why I'm glad we had him on the podcast. And if you guys haven't heard it, I suggest you go back and listen to that podcast. It was pretty much one of the best ones that we've ever done.
Yeah, Import Santa.
Yeah, definitely, man. But we need a lot more of that in the community. And just like you say, I've met so many people, and since we're talking about the YouTube space, in that space, and I'm just like, you do and you don't deserve to be here. You deserve to be here because you figured out the formula, you know what you have to do, and you're doing it. Right. I can do it. I'm not doing it, so I'm not at the position you're at. And that's because of time. You know, my time is allocated to so many different things.
Right.
So I can't look at somebody and say, you don't know shit about cars. You're a fucking douchebag. You shouldn't be there. Because if I wanted to be there, I could be there. And the only reason I'm not is because I'm not allowing myself that time.
Right.
But then there's the other side of it, the enthusiast side of it, of me, is that you're leading this culture down a wrong path, and you're capitalizing on the naive enthusiasts out there, which think that what you're doing, what you say, how you maneuver is gospel, and it's not.
But it will be taken that way from time to time, and we all know that, you know, and it's just part of the culture, man. Like your sticker at some point is going to become more valuable than the bolt.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of where everything is going. It's a popularity contest, you know, and that's kind of where the world I live in, I kind of thrive on it because there's nothing open for interpretation. When you go race, you either win or you don't.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that's going to change that. Like no amount of likes or deletes is going to delete that victory from history. So, it's where I thrive, and where you thrive is, obviously in your space.
Yeah.
And what you sell. I've never been good at selling things. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
I look at money. I've put money growing up the way I did. I think I put it too high on a pedestal where I can't afford my own stuff. Like I won't go into what I charge for stuff, but the experience definitely is reflected in the price. I didn't even get into what I do really nowadays. And that's really, I travel the country, racing short course with, people I grew up watching on TV, and there's a lot of times where I have these moments of clarity and gratefulness, where you're standing in another state or another country and you realize what you're there for, and what you're being paid for.
Yeah.
And you for a moment there, you could psych yourself out real quick.
Yeah.
Instantly, I don't deserve this, and
I don't belong here.
Yeah. And I felt that way at least 4 times sitting here today. Like this is just the reality of it. And if you're not grateful for it and you're not happy, nothing's going to make you happy. It's internalized through these big deals that we're making with our business. Like I wish I had products to sell like you did. I would probably be a lot better off financially, but
it's all about those opportunities, man.
we'll get there.
I feel like that. I don't feel I'm passionate about hardware. I'm passionate about what it does.
Right.
I'm not passionate about the pencil. I'm passionate about what the pencil can draw on the piece of paper and what the artwork.
I'm interested. I 100%. Like I'm fully tattooed. Like I get it, and they're all really bad tattoos.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know, what does it for you? Like where do you, like for me, it's my car dead hooking and making a pass.
Got you.
And outrunning anybody really that on any given night, or picking my races accordingly. What does it for you on the other end of it? Like where do you get that hit beyond the business being successful?
I mean, it's I don't know if people ever really get to that point, because a lot of people, it's the finances of it. It took me a long time to get to that point where, I'm not worried about finances. I'm not worried about bills. I'm not stressing about that. When I got to that point, I had to figure out like, what the hell really makes me happy? Because I assumed when I was younger and, for most of my 20s that it was money. Money makes me happy because every time I make money, I'm happy, you know. But once I had enough, and I'm not saying that we're rich or anything, but it's just when you get to a point where all your bills are paid off, you buy the clothes you want, and, everything besides like, exotic cars or Rolexes and chains and things like that is just like, what really makes me happy. And I think what it is creating. I like to create things, and I like people to enjoy what I created. I mentioned drawing. Like when I was younger, I used to love to draw. I've always been into really fine details of things, and that transitioned over into cars, into the hardware. That's why I say like it's just another tool to me. I'm not passionate about the actual nut and the bolt and it secures it's like that's to be able to give somebody else more colors in their palette to paint something else. And that's what and then to see what they painted, and then for them to tag me in it, and to see it at shows, and to see our stickers, and to see how much pride that people have in what we create. That's like where I see the value at. Even in the podcasting, I posted yesterday that like this episode is 124.
It's insane.
And
wait, so you've done damn near 50 episodes since Mickey's been here?
Yeah, whatever episode that was, I'm not sure, but we're doing 2 a week. Right now we're in the heart of we're in the trenches from Bolt Friday sale. You saw the orders are out there. We have so much work to do, but I have work to do with this. I can't let off the throttle. No pun intended. Shout out to throttle, but I can't let off the throttle because I want this to succeed.
Right.
And the success of this isn't about money, because money doesn't even interest me anymore. You know,
well, you have that freedom now.
Yeah.
You're
So
not bound.
I'm creating stuff. So when I get a message from somebody and say, I listened to Mickey's episode and it was so great, like, that brings me value. That's my currency, you know, being able to have these conversations and pick people's brains and see where they came from. Like, your whole childhood is insane. I would have never guessed that, you know, and just to be able to sit here with you and hear that story, and just to, I'm a very visual person, and I feel like that's one of my skills, where I can actually jump inside of your body and I can visualize what you're saying, how you felt, because how you're explaining it to me, I'm transitioning that into like trying to imagine it.
Right.
And that's what motivates me, is creating things. I'm a very creative person, and I don't have the obligation of having to worry about if we're gonna make rent this month, and that allows me to do the things that I really want to do.
That's awesome. I'm still working on that end of it, because when I stop moving, I stop making money.
Yeah.
You know, and I respect that. You know, I when I saw your orders going out, I was like, man, people are really every Black Friday, whether it be your orders or people that I followed from day one on Instagram. My Instagram is really old. Like, I've never hashtagged. I made a joke of it. I should have taken it more seriously. It would have been probably a lot more lucrative, but I never did. But you know, every Black Friday, I'm like, why can't I come up with something? And it's mainly because of what I specialize in. It's so niche. And there's a lot of dynamics, engine dynamics, that aren't mine to share, that I use as far as what we need an engine to do and how we need to do it. It's a very technical side, and I think I kind of may have ruined that by coming in here and talking about all that. But driving through LA, I can't drive through LA or this area and not relive all that.
Yeah.
You know, the names and the places, because I remember that better than I remember last week.
Yeah.
You know, it's extremely clear in my head, and the urgency to get here. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna be there at 12:01. Like, you know, after driving literally 4 hours and 15 minutes, I'm gonna be there within 1 minute, and then I hit the 126 and it was longer. But you know, it's on the business end of things. I really should be pushing more of that rather than the story. You know,
I mean, with our stuff here, I really feel like we just lucked out. You know, I see it as, I understand where you're coming from, because, you know, one of my good friends is Ryan from Rywire, and he's the same thing. He never runs a Black Friday sale, and I like, dude, why don't you do it? You should do something. But looking at it from his side, it's
no, not for him.
You can't.
Mm-mm.
And from a fab guy, you know, we just had on the last episode we did yesterday was this guy Greg Carter from Go Auto Works, and he was telling me a story about how last year he did a Black Friday sale, and he was booked up till March. I'm like, dude, I'm stressing because we're 1 week from Black Friday, so we're like 7 days. I'm just like, fuck, I gotta get these orders out, you know, stressing out, but not understanding that, like, we're in such a great position where I could just take bolts off the counter, put them in the thing, ship them out, and that's it. I don't have to weld a turbo manifold. I don't have to stay here crazy late at night, you know, burning my hands to the bones. Like, dude, I don't have any dirt under my nails, and that kind of bothers me.
Now you're rubbing it in.
I mean,
no, I get it.
You know,
I get it because I'm on the other end of it. You know, and it's like, for me, it's busy season. Like, this is the season where I make all my money in the next 2 months. Like, without a doubt, I could literally work the next 2 months and be good for the rest of the year. Like, chill. Yeah. And unfortunately, after all the years I worked, when I did get a chance to finally let things relax, I probably took it too far at times, or took one too many motorcycle rides. But I have jobs that I brought in that happen to be full builds, and it never fails to bite me in the ass. Yeah. where I interview my clients. It's very important because this relationship there's going to be a lot of money involved. There's going to be a lot of property involved. Your safety is going to be involved. You need to trust me with your life, or, at least your car. And I need to trust that you're not going to go out and use this tool to hurt yourself. We have to really understand each other. So I'm really very careful about who I pick, but I've had a few that have really gone sideways on me due to my travel schedule and the people that I do offer my services to. When my shop's full, I'm stressed out. I'm like, my heart's redlined and I'm constantly concerned. And these people think that you're not worried about it, when really that's everything. Like I'm hyper consumed with it. My wife knows when there's stuff that needs to be done. Like I just be sitting there, so much on my mind, overwhelmed, and she just like, go to work, go to work. Not like I will, but I do. And then sometimes I'll go in there for 2 days and I won't leave. And then I have to recoup. I'm not as young as I used to be, but I guess the point is it's weathering the storms that you're talking about that you've gotten past. That's my biggest hurdle right now.
Yeah.
The financial storms and being in California with all the amenities, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So the burn rate's really high. And, for me, one set of headers is it's a good job to get. The problem is that there's only so many people in the race community, and they're kind of all there.
Yeah.
Like we just won the 1,000 for the third time. Our products have completed.
What is the 1,000?
The Baja 1,000.
Okay.
So it's the longest off-road race. Well, it's not the longest. Dakar is, but the longest off-road race in the United States is the Mint 400, and then there's the Baja 1,000. I always assume that everybody knows about the 1,000 because it's just part of our life where we're from. And there's the Baja 500, so it's a 1,000-mile race through Mexico. And it's, and they do it in about 16 and a half hours, somewhere in there. Basically, it's 1,000 horsepower, naturally aspirated trophy truck.
Okay.
About 30 plus inches of travel, suspension.
Mm-hmm.
The wheel will move 30, 34 inches.
Yeah.
And they basically have pits set up all through Mexico, and they pin it for 1,000 miles until they finish.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I'll put a set of headers out, and through one race, they look like they've been through 20 years on the street. They'll literally sweat all the good materials and stainless out. And when we get them back, they're crystallized. It's not even a stainless material anymore on the big power trucks. But, we've had a lot of luck. We've won every off-road race there is in the United States, or from the Mint 400 to the 1,000, we've won every race. We've won every class in short course. We have headers in every class. Everything from the little guys, which is about a $300,000 budget in the karting class, up into the big trucks, which it costs about $1,400 a minute to run the truck. So if you have a failure and you go out on a race weekend, our typical race weekend, we're budgeted $100,000, somewhere in there. And we get about 40 minutes of track time for 4 days. And we're, Crandon this year, I would say, was, $180,000 just to be there and race. We went through 9 bodies. Our last 3 rounds, like I'm jumping right here into off-road. We had a great season, no failures, no big failures. And then the last 3 rounds, Crandon is the biggest off-road race in the United States. It's a short course race in the middle of Wisconsin. Like you literally fly you fly a half an hour from Wisconsin, Minneapolis, into the middle of Wisconsin, then you drive 2 hours to this little town of 1,200 people. And over, what is estimated 60 to 70,000 people showed up this year.
Right? In that little town?
Yeah, and every off-road legend, every team, every manager, every person you could imagine is there.
Yeah.
And, you go run the big house. And unfortunately, our class right now, they're having a debate about engine size. So we have one engine size that goes first, and then we have our West Coast trucks that have a 20-second interval that come behind. We're making about 900 to the tire. No turbos, no nothing. Just it's a NASCAR Cup engine that we run.
Yeah.
And we got to come behind them, and within a lap, we got to weed through those 20 trucks. while battling with the fast guys and make our way to the front. That's how you win the race. And then at the end, we have a cup race, which races 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, and those other slower trucks, and they throw them all together. So we were there for, I think, 5-6 days total. We didn't finish a lap until the last day. We went out, practice broke. I mean, we got landed on. We landed on a few people, just trying to get through traffic, people crossing lines, you're coming down, people are coming heated at us in the pits. It's just racing, right? And we either we broke the front end or we lost the rear end, whatever. It's racing. And you're on the radio with your driver. I'm on the radio. I live with a headset on in the pit. And we're just struggling to make it through these rounds. And, every time that truck comes in, the first turn or whatever, I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars in damage for a race that pays on a normal day $1,800 purse, right? So it's a money race. It's an endorsement race. It's all sponsorship. It's true racing. So, going through Crandon, we had someone lose a transmission on the last day where we really had a shot. We had finally worked out. I mean, I put so many bodies on that truck through that week. I was just sick of putting bodies on it. I mean, it's part of what I do. We can do it pretty quick, but you're just throwing money at the damn thing the whole time. But we had someone lose a tranny last race, and we had nowhere to go. And we just basically hit him and bent the front end. And I don't know how Brian did it, but he ran it's Brian Deegan. I don't know if you're familiar with Brian Deegan. No. He started the Metal Militia. You should probably look into
okay.
His brand building skills are pretty incredible.
Deegan?
Brian Deegan. He won the X Games a few times. And his daughter's Haley Deegan, who races NASCAR. So they basically, we have their two trucks. We have a light truck and we have the Pro 2. And then a lot of other race teams are running my product. But a while back when I got a message one day on Instagram, I want your headers. And it was Brian. And that eventually led to a whole bunch of other openings. I don't know how to assimilate it to anybody in the import world, but it's a pretty important phone call.
I think that might come full circle into how you and I met, would be through TJ. So
yeah, well, I mean,
that's how that connection even came to be.
It did.
So from my side of it, I got just an order, put it out, sent it out, whatever, normal day, and then I get a DM from just some random guy, and he's like, "Hey man, congratulations for getting on TJ Hunt," and I'm just like, "What's that?"
Does that ever sound silly to you?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I understand it. I feel like even though I'm relatively older than some of the generation that's very popular right now, I get it. I don't fight it. I've always known that life changes and things will change, and just because we're in the internet forum kind of era where it's just still new, and Hondas are cherished, and this is our own thing, and to see it blow up into like the stance thing, and people kind of living their life in this differently than we did. I never held that against them.
Right.
This is just different times, so when I got that message, it wasn't like, who the fuck is that, so I was like, what is that? And so he sent me the link to the video. So I clicked the video, and off the bat I already knew like that it was a big deal, because he had like 600k subs at that time, and in any YouTube channel that's a lot of numbers, but especially in automotive, that's big numbers, so I watched the video, and he said that you were the one that put him on to us. So and I didn't know you at the time.
I mean, why would you?
Just from, I think we were friends on Facebook at the time, but we never really had a reason to interact with each other. So I knew that he didn't have to do that for us. He did pretty much a whole entire video of a product placement for our hardware.
That was a big one. Like I remember seeing that, and I was like, that's awesome. Because I never miss a chance to connect people. I've tried all the YouTube people that I know. TJ mainly, especially. I've tried to link him up with the people that I'm dealing with. Brian being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think you not knowing Brian is
I need to look into
it's
that
out
for
of
sure.
context,
Definitely.
but he's blowing up. He's doing podcasts now.
Oh,
he's
no way.
Yeah, he's really doing everything you're doing after building a brand that could have sold for, he turned down, it was like 20 million, 30 million. I mean, that's kind of low for what it really was, but I mean, he's paying for these races that we're talking about out of pocket, right? So this is where he's at now in life.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a full race facility on site on his shop. You can build a whole race truck out of there.
Wow.
His son is probably the next fastest racer that's going to come out for a while. I mean, granted, there are some competitors out there. I can't say that I'm not that involved, but he's amazingly talented on a motorcycle. And Brian is just one of the best drivers as far as feedback that I've ever dealt with. He gets out of the truck, you know exactly what he's thinking. There's no guessing, and he made his money from something he really believed in. Like, it was totally against the grain of what was going on in racing. And it was more of, it was like fuck the establishment kind of thing. Like these gnarly metal things, all black, tattoos. Everybody started flat billing it. Like he literally, like that part of time in moto started all of that shit.
Hell yeah.
And me being like an original like race guy, I wasn't really a fan initially. And knowing him now, I know his true personality, but back then I wasn't really, it was in your face, and a lot of people love that.
Yeah.
There's a market for everybody.
Yeah.
And he's really done a lot with it. So I've tried to hook him up with whoever I can. You're getting into this YouTube space. I think they're at like 700,000 subs.
Shit!
In like a year.
Whoa.
Or I know they hit like 550 in a year.
Hell yeah.
Because his media guy, Gavin, Ayala Media, shout out to Gavin. He's amazingly outgoing. He's really good at what he does, incredibly good at what he does. And like if you just walk around, like in our capacity, it's incredible how well liked he is. But Brian hired him to follow them around, and their life is wild. Like they're living on the edge. They make time for their beliefs, and they're really solid. I mean, granted they suffer from being human in a family like everybody else does, but they found a lot of success, at least with brands and finances in the world they live in and thrive in.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to be driving their semis and race trucks out there to make it ready. Like his job is literally to get in and jump through that hole in the door. Beyond that, it's none of his business, other than set up and making him comfortable. He pays us to do that.
Yeah.
So, it's like him coming full circle. He has no more bones to break, like I was saying earlier. And then he switched to, with age comes a cage, is the old saying. I mean, I'm assuming you haven't heard that one, but basically you got to get off the bike at some point. And then he got into, he's won 6 championships in off-road. So,
dude, I got to look into him, man. I've heard of the brand before, but as you were talking about like the trophy trucks and things like that, it just got me to thinking, like, I always think about this, how big that world is to you, fabricating is, to me, the Honda community is. Like,
I don't see it big though. Like I'm not like disagreeing with you, but I don't see it as being
I guess what I'm trying to say is it's so crazy that like there's somebody out there right now that doesn't care about any of this stuff at all, and it's not their world at all.
Right.
But there's something that they do care about. There's something that they're passionate about. And I guess that's one of the benefits of the podcast, is to figure out all these different things that people are into, that they're passionate about. And I want to experience it. Yeah. Because if somebody can feel the same passion that I have about, cars or podcasting or whatever, but in something else, I'm intrigued by that a lot,
I agree. I mean, making something from nothing. Like when we walked in here, your initial deal was like, this is dope, Frank. Like,
thank you, man.
You know what I mean? Like everything's put together 100% professional all the way through, and down to the wall, like everything is dialed. It's how it's your vision. Yeah. And it's cool to see.
Thank you.
I wish everything beyond my work doesn't reflect stuff like this. You know, like I get caught up and shit gets destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just a different aspect of what I do. But it's interesting to be here. That's for sure. Like,
Thank you.
Honestly, thinking back, it's like, how did we get here? You know, and I
It's
know
just-
it's Mickey. Mickey's the one who recommended, you know, you asked me, and I was like on the fence about it. So, you know, the whole thing.
Mickey did. You mentioned it, and it was just.
I mentioned it.
I think so. I think it was something that you said that
I
you'd
don't know. I was
like
probably
to have a
scared
combo.
to death about it.
But to me, I don't feel like this is that you have to be a certain type of person. Like I would have a conversation with pretty much anybody,
Right.
as long as they're willing to have a conversation.
Right.
I have conversations with just people that nobody would even know out there, but they're just personal friends of mine. And if I can finesse like a 2-hour convo with them so I don't have to work and so we get to hang out during work time, you know, it's just the conversation with me. I love it, you know,
Right.
because everybody has their own life, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to somebody because they can give me views or we could get. I don't want that. I want this to have its own little cult following where the people that listen, they know what they're expecting and they know what they're gonna get. And I don't want random people to be listening to this and to be harping on maybe one word that we said or we said something wrong or whatever. You know, I want this to be as close to hanging out with friends in a garage and just bullshitting and talking as possible. So like it's an honor for me to have you come here because for you to see the value in it, that makes me feel like these 124 episodes have been worth it. This work that I'm putting into it. If I can get somebody from damn near Mexico to drive out here to be part of it, like it's just another sign to me that things are going good.
They are. I mean, you don't see something when you're so close to it, right? You know, and I think that's a lot of the reason I agree to do stuff like this. I mean, I make a living traveling. Though I have my shop, my business is on the road. That's where I make real money at. And I always reflect on everything when I'm away from it. You know, if you're constantly here and you're constantly in your headspace, that rhythm and that meaning and that purpose and all that stuff starts to fade.
Yeah.
You know, loses its luster. So you need to have new things. And for you to be able to have this where you can meet and talk to people and hear different stories, you know, some, you know, more formal than others, I think that's great. That's fantastic. It's a form of for lack of a better word, it's just fellowshipping.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really just being with the people that are about what you're about. And long term, if this didn't work, which, you know, obviously you're on your way.
Yeah.
You would have left behind this print, this legacy for your children to enjoy, you know, and the people that appreciate you,
Yeah.
can, you know, kind of have a piece of you that's left behind. Coming from somebody who didn't have there's not a lot of documentation other than like the magazines I have and this and that or word of mouth or people that know me. But beyond that, my career has literally just been a means to feed my family, which is all it should be. Honestly.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's my goal. I don't need anything else. If I've seen what fame can do on the wrong end of it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a loaded gun, and it's something I wouldn't want to risk down the road affecting anything else. If that comes with something, fine. I mean, I hope it comes with race wins. Like that's what I'm going for. This next season has opened a lot of opportunities as far as the type of racing I'm talking about. Where if I wanted to be in a different position, I probably could. So I mean, I have a lot to consider here soon. So
Yeah.
I've just been using a lot of these times or any chance to maybe come talk to you and maybe something comes up during this conversation. Or the time spent driving, you know, where you reflect.
Yeah.
I do very well driving. Like the name of my company is just a result of being driven home after a long weekend in Vegas.
Yeah. What does the name stand for?
It's ILK. It's the Irish word for kin, family. It's a brand type. So in Ireland, it would be like they're of the same ilk or
Gotcha.
they're of the same kind. So it's not ILK, it's ILK.
Oh.
It's an actual word. I was pretty hungover coming from Vegas one time, and my family, I'm fourth generation Swedish immigrant. My grandparent, I'm American, but my ancestry is Irish and Swedish. So I've always been, intrigued by the Celtic side of things and just the old stuff. I love stuff with history and like Europe and stuff like that. And I just wanted a word that was unique, had meaning, and made sense. So I literally spent hours just reading Celtic words. And I had another name that was more Spanish. It was just AHB Familia. And that was, Anderson's hand-built. Back in the day, everything was built something if you were into Hondas. So from there, it was attached to my old business, who, I won't even bring up because it was affiliated with a crook, for lack of a better word. I mean, I literally had to start over at some point because of this dude. But I wanted a word that really had to do with family, and the more obscure, the better, because you won't forget it when you remember it. And nobody ever gets it right. Like, it's okay. But people know who I am, and they don't know my name. And that's kind of what I'm stoked on at times. We're like, oh, that's the dude who builds headers. Like where we had the banquet this year, at the race I was telling you about up in Wisconsin. I was in a room with probably every off-road legend you can imagine. Like everywhere you look, you're like, oh, there's, it would be like, I don't know, where you go to the World Cup and everyone with the fastest cars exclusively is there. And that's what this place was. And then I have guys that I look up to as mentors, a guy named Paul Michel, who runs the Deegan team, who's been around many, many high-profile builds, from the Fast and the Furious truck. I don't know if you saw when I sold it. I sold one of the Fast and the Furious vehicles that we had. I had it at a friend's house. I didn't personally have it, but I had access to it.
Oh, wow.
So the six-wheeler truck, the dually. He's the one who built that, and I basically just sold that for him. We just got rid of it. It was in the yard, and he did a lot of Fast and Furious stuff. Yeah. And beyond that, his off-road resume is impeccable. He's somebody I can learn from. The last thing I want to be is the smartest guy in the room. Yeah. And as soon as you believe that, I mean, there may be topics where I know, a little more of that. But when it comes to wanting to learn more, I definitely want to be around somebody that's going to teach me something. I don't want to just be sitting there preaching to the choir, because, there's only so much you can talk about. So
now, with the name ILK and the other name that you were going with, why did you feel like it was so important to go name it towards like the family route?
Because it's always been that way. I think a lot of it is to remind me what's important. I often lose sight of what's important and why I do this. This isn't a means for me to go out and race, or go out and do things. At once it was. It was like a way I'm going to get hooked up. I'm going to get free shit. Honestly, it's so hard for me to ask for something. And I think that's like, I've hit you up for bolts. And this year with SEMA, I put myself out there heavy. We did a build with all the Street Outlaws guys.
Oh, okay.
For a friend who got, unfortunately, they found a huge tumor, brain cancer.
Oh, shit.
And he's doing really good now. He had lost movement, and he's had this Camaro in his garage for a very long time, and he was a customer of mine from way back. Speed Society, I don't know if you're familiar with Speed Society. I do a lot of their fab work. If they need something, I'm their dude. I'm there. Mike Petruzza, who works there, Charlie, all those guys, they know who to call. They know that I'm going to show up prepared, and I'm not going to, whatever we're going to do, we're going to make do, we're going to get it done. So they called me about this build, and Christian's had this 69 Camaro for a very long time, just sitting in his garage. He's a marine biologist, if I'm not mistaken. He's traveling a lot, and they found the tumor, similar to how my dad passed. So it hit home in a lot of ways. And Charlie's like, hey, we got the baddest fabricators coming out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's talking about Jeff Lutz and Daddy Dave and all these dudes. And then they're talking about headers. I'm like, man, when it comes to headers, I got you covered. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I've seen what they can do, and honestly, I was a little, you can be protective of your babies, but
Yeah.
I stepped aside. They built that, but I ended up, doing a whole back half on the car. I did everything but the headers and the engine and whatever. But when it came to fab, I basically volunteered my time to get this car done,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those dudes stepped up. It was like 70. I don't know how many companies, like 45 companies stepped up, from
Mm-hmm.
motor to suspension to you name it. Everybody jumped on board to get this guy his last wish, which.
Mm.
It sounds, I never think I've ever said that out loud, but to get his car in his hands and done for SEMA. And we were able to do that. And there were some parts in the car in the end. I didn't want to go to SEMA this year. Like, I never want to go to SEMA. I try to avoid it. I don't know why. I think it's just because of the whole, I think the old guy in me has a hard time really sometimes accepting what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
Like, I don't dispute it. It's fine.
It's hard.
But I can choose what I see and what I don't.
Yeah, definitely.
So, going there, it was like I was really reluctant. And finances, same thing. So I eventually just worked out a deal where there was some final things. We bead blasted the car, like, after we finished it. Last minute, painted the whole car and then reassembled it. They did. Or Pfizer out in Arizona. So basically, we got out there and I had a media credential. So it had their name on it. They have like 1.1 million on Instagram. Not a huge YouTube following, but they do a lot with marketing on Facebook. Like, they're huge on Facebook. I want to say like 5 million. I don't know, millions. But they're really good at what they do. And so I had my wife with me. The ultimate confidence for me is having my wife with me, because there's nobody that knows me better. There's nobody that's seen me from day one, and there's nobody that can give me honest feedback on what's real and what's not, and if I'm overstepping my boundary.
Yeah.
So this year I basically had proposals for certain companies I won't name, but I ever since I did the Ferrari project, I hate saying I and completely talking about myself. Excuse me. Even though this is the time.
Tell
and
the
place.
story, man.
So basically, ever since I did the Ferrari project, have you seen the Turk car with the Ferrari engine?
Yes.
So I got that call one day, like, we're going to put in a Ferrari engine in Toyota. And I'm like, you're full of shit. And anyways, showed up and it was real, and basically I didn't know what I was getting into when I built that car. I didn't know we'd have a magazine on every continent in the world. 26 million hits in 24 hours, or shut down Facebook.
That was insane.
It was insane. It was more than anybody was really prepared for.
Yeah.
So when we went, that was another year I didn't want to go to SEMA. And I went last minute, grabbed my son, and it was in the GoPro booth. Like, to get in the GoPro booth, they had an F1 car in their booth the year before. So it was like this huge honor.
I remember that year.
Yeah, so it was 3 years ago. It was very intimidating, right? It was very intimidating. And half of the car I didn't build. Like, there's a lot more than the headers I did too. Like, I got the car running on Motec, and I didn't tune it, but mechanically. It afforded me the opportunity to sit in front of a platform or a car that I built and talk to the sponsors that were already on board with the car and kind of give them my feedback. So a major exhaust company approached me, and basically I broke down the dynamics of the headers, which has been done through the video and multiple times, why they're not the same. And when we were done, they offered me a job in another country. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's about a half hour, and he was dead serious. And I recently got that offer again. So this year I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna parlay that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be there to engineer or design, right? Like, there's got to be a way we can make this work.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So I show up. I have my like I said, I'd use the 4586 to talk to these companies and get my name out there and really have a conversation with the most educated men in this industry, men and women, whoever, and really get down to the nitty gritty of design and concept and making power. And I lost them right around 60% of the conversation. Like, it was just kind of going the other way. And I could, they're just like, whoa, what? And it was just like, they weren't understanding, what I was telling them. And it just marketing and not being an engine guys and whatever. And I started seeing a need for a certain thing. or a need for a group of things. So I kind of used that as a starting point, and 3 years later, I kind of went in and I went in and I gave them my whole spiel on what I think we can do. I didn't point anything out. We have NDAs and stuff like that. And they were all for it to basically take me on in engineering. And there's parts out there already that I've had a hand in that are, being sold. And so I took that approach with a few other big companies, like biggest companies out there. And I somehow got lucky with a vice president on one company. And I just kind of went up and I started a gentleman's conversation. I was like, I just basically said, can I please have your marketing guys in for, may I speak to him? And he turns out, well, I'm the vice president, like, what do you need? And I was just basically broke it down to him. I was like, I'm doing this, and this, and I need this, and this. And he's like, well, I think we can do that. And I said, you can do better. We can do this, and this. And it opened the door for all of the type of work that you were talking about, like keeping my hands clean and royalties, and something that I can actually pass on to my children when I'm gone, and designs that will live on. And not only that, my trade, which is a dying trade, as far as beyond the welding and aesthetic, is a dying art on what we do, because it's very, very controlled. There's only a certain amount of length in a header where it makes power, and beyond that, I mean good power, not just that number. It's dying. So someone has to, the info is out there if you look hard enough, but someone needs to put it on a stage and maybe rebrand it and do something with it. Like I was telling you earlier about like the washers, like you're missing out on a market, right? And that market would keep me from cutting parts. Yeah. So you gotta execute on those markets and know where you can be stronger at and where you can grow. So this year I went in and I got 11 new sponsors. Like,
wow.
Beyond the...
Congrats, dude.
Thank you. It's yet to come to fruition, but it wasn't like that was the goal. I never really set out for that. But as it started happening, the confidence grew. And I said, I have my wife. And when my wife's there, I'm invincible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this girl has my back. If anything's going on, I don't even look behind me when she's around, And it's like, she's going to check me and let me know, like, you're out of lines or whatever. I think for the most part, I'm 100% respectful. But it was so, like, the first night we got back to the hotel and she was like, I can't believe you did that. Like, I can't believe you did that. Like, how well that went. Yeah. And I was like, I can't believe you did that. We were just floating through the hotel and, going back to the Speed Society, like having that badge, the media, all that would literally kind of open the door. It helped. Yeah. But what was said after is what really kicked it in. So, there's a lot of companies out there where you can click up. I don't know. That's a bad word. That's not a word I would use, but there's no reason why, we're having this conversation and providing a source of entertainment or anything. There's no reason on a business level that we can't come together at times and make money. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. There's somebody's got to do it, right? So, and that was kind of the way I approached this year's SEMA. Going from never asking for anything to literally hitting up everybody I was afraid of. I went to Nitrous Express, like the biggest companies, forged cranks, pistons, rods. When I left, I had this huge stack of cards and like 50% were 100% committed to the project.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
I'm trying to break the world record with my car. So I didn't talk about that.
What car is this?
I have a 240 SX. Okay. I've owned it for 15 years now. Bought it for $100 under a tree. I didn't buy it. Actually, I got out of the, going back to our other story. Yeah. I completely left the import world behind. Yeah. Like I was like, I'm done. I can't do both. Effectively, I can't do both. Still working in the industry, still building, still doing everything, but I didn't own a personal car. And eventually we bought a brand new house and all that. And it stayed empty for a very long time other than motorcycles. One day I got a phone call. And I was always like, I'm going to get a 240 one day. I'm going to come back and smash on all you. Like, all your V8s and whatever. I got something for all you. Yeah. I was just talking shit when I was young. So my buddy calls me. He's like, "Hey, I got a 240 for you. You always wanted one. I got it. Come get it." This is like my big brother, my closest friend.
Yeah.
Guy who brought me through JBA in my muscle car days when we made the cover of Hot Rod in '03, and it's a whole other topic and cars. But he bought me the car, and right when I got off the phone, this is how the world works. This is how, like, when things align and you know it's your time, it's your time. I turned to a worker. We had our own exhaust line for this company. We used to have 5 stores. I would run around and do all the heavy shit for all the stores. He's like, well, I told him I got the car. He's like, that's nice. I happen to have a whole swap in my shed from one of our sandrail builds, because we used to build chassis cars.
Yeah.
And with that day, I ended up getting a full SR swap. It was automatic, so I had to figure that out. And a car, like, from my friends out of nowhere. I went to work that day, just like, I had to do another. It was probably some shitty service van, or pulling manifold studs, or the grimy work. Like, but it pays good.
Yeah.
To going home, having to tell my wife, I got another import, I got a turbo motor, and I'm gonna build this fucking car. Like, it took me a week to tell her. Like, I was waiting for the right time where she was just glowing. I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna fuck your day up right now. Like, I was just waiting. So, it all came to fruition. And then I did a full bone stock 180SX swap. And then I started chasing the stock block record, and we broke that record by 70 horsepower. Made like 5 and change. I wouldn't go any beyond that because I had cracked my intake manifold, whatever. But the car made 500 plus and has made over 300 passes, and same compression as when I pulled it down. So the goal now is to make almost triple that. I mean, we're not going to make triple that.
Yeah.
So let's not be out of range here, but I think 800 horsepower will get it done. And the car, basically, I want to take the car, cage it up, because it was getting too fast to not have a cage in it, and go run 7s and have the fastest 240 SR on IRS, which is, I believe, owned by a doctor right now out of Canada.
Hell yeah, dude.
7.9. So that's the goal. So I have, through the help of the people I spoke to, through the help of Throttle Mickey.
Yeah.
Mickey's opened a lot of doors for me.
Mm-hmm.
Very grateful to him. Very grateful to TJ, the things he's done. But we're going to chase that record, and the goal, you've had Robbie on here.
Yeah.
Robbie's one of my biggest supporters.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Robbie, man.
Yeah, Robbie's
CSF.
Always got my back. CSF. And he basically, I called him one day about another company, and he was like, fuck that. He's like, I'll give you this on top of that. Robbie's a hustler. He's not going to let you go,
Yeah.
And I have yet to repay him for that. And when we break this record, it's going to be payment, because we're going to. That's what this is about.
Hell
it's
yeah.
about racing. So, it just, I don't know, man. People having faith in you, and you go and do what you want to do. That's the next step now.
I think it's you doing good too, man. You throwing out these alley-oops, just like going back to the whole TJ thing. If I didn't take that initiative, like I was saying, I ended up calling him and thanking him for doing that, because I realized that he didn't have to do that, and told him, if you need anything from now on, this is my personal number. And then that built that relationship, and from that came so many others, including Mickey, and it's just opened so many opportunities for me. And that all stems from you. If you didn't make that connection, it does. At the end of the day, it does. That's what it is. If you did not make that connection, if he didn't value your opinion to purchase this product, if you didn't even follow us, that whole side of it wouldn't have opened up. And it's put us in the YouTube space where now we have a name with that community, just from that group of guys.
That's incredible.
It is. It's crazy.
No, his reach is honestly, it's pretty incredible. Like I literally, I'm very grateful, but I don't like to take credit for something you should be doing already, right? And people that deserve it, and people that should come together. If you're the one separating those two, you need to really evaluate your status as a person and what your intentions are.
Yeah.
When you have people succeeding around you, it's contagious. And you surround yourself with people that are willing, to put their shit on the line. It helps you do the same. you know, and for you guys to connect, like I see your mentality where you're coming from, like, you're relentless. Like that's the word I would use for you is
Thank
relentless. And to put it with him, I needed a product that, no offense to anybody, especially TJ, but that was kind of dummy proof.
Yeah.
You know, and when we're doing a wide body on a car that was already cut up, like by the time I got there, it's very important that you have all those key elements, you know, the nutser, the washer and the deal. So they just drill the hole and it works.
Yeah.
You know, not like the old Energy with a butterfly and everything's breaking.
Exactly,
you know, you had something that worked. And I can't even say I'd seen that before you ordered. I was like, this is pretty dope. Like, I like these.
Yeah.
And, you know, from there, he was like, you should have, I wish I had a video of when he first saw the bolt. You know,
Yeah.
he was like, I didn't know shit like this existed.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, there's all kinds, you know, you could think about it.
Yeah.
It's there. And, I was going to bring you a gift. Like I usually make little characters of people.
Oh, that would have been cool.
So I'll ship it to you. But
I'll put it up here in the studio for sure.
When I warm my my welder up, or like when I do tie, I make these little tie guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long, but like I'll make you a little
Hell
cartoon.
yeah,
for it.
thank you.
But I have a part that he cut off the car, and then I had him. Like those are my memories. Like I'll take a part of something, not an actual thing.
Yeah.
And I just had him sign it, and it's on my wall in the shop. I should shoot that over to you so you could throw it up somewhere. But,
Hell yeah, dude.
you know, because it obviously benefited you.
I love stuff like that, man.
Me too.
Even I have my buddy RC from RC's Garage. He builds some of the most amazing Hondas out there. He has, I don't know where it's at. It's somewhere around here. He got cover of Super Street for the Honda edition, and I had him sign it, and it's just like, dude, this is so dope. You know, I don't care that you're my friend. I'm not gonna have my friends say it. Like, this is what I consider memorabilia.
100%.
These guys are celebrities to me. These are the guys that, like, I don't give a fuck about Tom Cruise. You know,
Amen to
if
that.
I see Tom Cruise, I'm like, oh shit, that's Tom Cruise. I don't give a fuck.
I'm totally desensitized to people's stature.
Yeah.
Beyond them as a person.
Definitely, man. And I love that because it's parts of history.
Right.
I feel like this era that we're in right now, we're all experiencing this weird thing that we don't even know what it is. But in all of our lives, this is like the boiling point. Things are so crazy for all of us. And 10 years from now, we could all be somewhere else, you know, at a SEMA.
If I'm not retired in 10 years, I'm going to be an angry motherfucker.
We could be wherever, run into each other somewhere, and then just, you know, talk back about those times. And it's good just to have that history, you know, like you said. If I stopped doing this podcast today, it was a project that I was doing and it was cool, but this is gonna last forever.
Right.
This is on the internet. This is out there.
Yeah.
So when I'm 20 to 30 years from now, I could go back and listen to this and be like, damn, life was crazy at that time, you know?
That I can relate to that on the level of another reason of being here, period. You know, like there's no, I don't know, anybody, if you ever worked with me, it's impossible to get a good interview out of me. You're going to figure that out real quick. I don't talk loud. I don't really, I'm pretty self-conscious.
Yeah.
Like on a out there space. I do very well with public speaking, but cameras, for whatever reason, trip me out.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that camera's on.
Oh, it's on, but
So, you know, like it's a head thing. It's just a confidence thing. You know, if you think about anything too much, it becomes too much.
Yeah.
It gets the power you give it. And the same thing with the things we're talking about. When I that part that I saved from that car wasn't about TJ Hunt.
yeah.
That was about that time, that space, that place, and where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter where I'm at, I'm going to look at that. Nobody else is going to understand what
Yeah.
that means. You know, even when I did it, he was like, why are you taking this? Like, it's fucking trash. And I go, no, it's not. This is what we did. You fucking cut your car up, dude. This is part of your car. Like, I don't know if you finance this shit, but somebody would, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So, you know, and now you look, he started putting all his wraps on the wall. Well, at least the old shop. But, you know, he's not kind of the sentimental guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's solid.
Yeah.
Like, solid across the board. But I need those reminders. Like, I have if you ever come into my office, there's this shitload of magazines, and there's nothing but stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, we made the cover of Super Street, and in 1 year, We made every cover from here to Europe, Asia. I've made every Hot Rod 5.0 magazine, Super Chevy.
No shit.
Import Tuner.
Wow.
I have a cover from almost every magazine available. Strictly just doing my job.
Yeah.
And doing it for the right people. When I left ARD, or the B shop, I should say, when I was doing all those swaps, I went to a full-fledged V8 race shop and a header design company in 2003, and I became the sole exhaust fabricator test guy, where we were doing carb EO numbers and dynoing and doing Ford Motorsport stuff, racing Trans Am's cars, basically old round muscle, on the tracks, old cars on the tracks. And I brought nothing with me but everything I learned in the import world and started applying that to these engines. I mean, one thing I found out really quick is they blow the fuck up real quick if you put any kind of boost to them on a Ford. Like you get 500, 550 on an old 289, 302, you're going to kick shit all out of that motor. We did it multiple times. So basically we figured out how to overcome all that, and we brought a whole new game to that industry. We started turbocharging these things. And if you look right around early 2000, you'll see a huge influx of turbocharging. And we basically did one of the first ones. I mean, not the first turbo, don't get me wrong. Gil Banks was doing that shit in 1970. One of the smartest men you ever meet. He's a diesel company owner. But basically, we started, the main tech there is like, hey, let's turbo my fastback, a 67 fastback. And I'm like, let's go, right?
Hell yeah.
And it was in a hailstorm. The car was fucked up. In 30 days, that was a cover car on Hot Rod, and it made number 2 car of the year for the next year on Hot Rod magazine. And it was just strictly passion, hard work, and literally take off parts from diesel trucks and everything. We made 710 wheel, and I was so young he wouldn't even let me drive it.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost got the car taken when it was in primer, but it was amazing to be on the ground floor of that and see where that went. And now everything's turbocharged, like everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of knowledge was lost with that. But again, we were able to use all our import stuff to go to the V8s and build a whole new legacy there in the V8 side of things. So it's pretty interesting what you can do.
Dude, congratulations, man.
For what?
That's just doing what you love, bro.
Fucking
Just being able to build something and to understand how it works and to be part of all of these projects, like, that's so awesome,
It's just, it is, and for all of us, it's, I don't know how it happened.
Yeah.
I really don't. I know that when I stopped focusing on, when I stopped worrying about other people, there's a couple kind of people in this world. And there's, like, say you're on equal ladders. There's the kind that they just want to cut yours a little shorter and make themselves feel taller.
Yeah.
And then there's people that just fucking step up and make more work out of it, and raise their shit higher. So you got to build your shit higher.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I'm after. And that's the kind of person, like, when I was a young man, it was hard to be. You're just like, you want everything so fast.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you just want to run through people to get it. And it's not the way.
Now, you being more of a quiet person, not really, maybe not that social or
I'm fine social. It's like, I'm fine in all aspects. If I have a choice, though, like, I would rather be more just.
It's not something that. What do you think the reasoning for that is? Do you feel that a lot of people don't?
I could use some veneers, maybe. I don't know. Like I'm this 6 foot tattooed white guy that's just totally misinterpreted 99% of the time, and I just don't bother correcting him. Like, you fucking believe whatever you want to believe, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my job to make you believe who I am. If I'm somebody that's important to you, then you figure it out. Like, I'm not out here to fucking be popular.
Yeah.
Like, if just ask anybody that knows me back home. Like, I'm in my own space. I'm on my own time, and it affects people sometimes. Like, I need to be more effective at it. But there's the creativity side of what I do is very hard to plan.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Tuesday, 1:00.
Mm-hmm.
Create something fucking amazing, right? Make it worth 30 grand.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It's very intimidating. And especially when someone comes to you and they want something different every time. I've never made the same part twice outside of a company. So I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm out of tricks, right? Aside from header building,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to, I want to thrive in the import side.
Yeah.
But the clientele is becoming extremely hard to deal with. And a lot of it is demographic money and everything else.
So let's just say this. Finances to the side, not worried about that. What would Eric want to do? Paint a picture of your life. However you want to, you program it how you want.
It's exactly now, it's just more money in the bank. 100%.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't change a fucking thing.
Hell yeah.
Not a fucking thing. I'd have more time to not stress, because even the time that I'm not working, I'm paralyzed by it.
Yeah.
Like there's times where I wake up and my chest is pounding and I'm not consciously anxious.
Yeah.
But my body's like, the
Yeah.
shop bills are due, the fucking house is due, the truck's due, the Ducati's due, and I'm just like, I can't keep up. I can't keep up. Every time I turn around, there's a bill alert. Bang, 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 bang. I haven't had a paycheck, like a solid one, like a big, probably 8 months. These builds, people run out of money. You get your car.
Yeah.
I may be building your shit. And let's say we started out with, we had a number of 60 grand, right? We're building the whole car. Right? And then you're out of money. Where does that put me? It's not my obligation to clean up this mess.
Yeah.
I'm a one-man shop, and that's a lot of my burden right now. Or doing something that spreads me too thin. I'm very guilty of that. That's probably what I'm most guilty of we're just talking about a third-party Eric here,
Mm-hmm.
would be someone that thought about his promises a little more, or not so much promises, but I would handle my scheduling differently.
Do you feel like you overload your plate because you think in your head that you can handle it, or that you are trying to be a people pleaser?
Definitely not a people pleaser. 100% not a people pleaser. Just ask anybody that that knows me.
Yeah.
And it's not an ego thing or anything like that. I think it's me getting older, and you do things at a certain speed when you do them a lot. Like I used to drop Honda Civics all day, right? I can drop a Civic in 13 minutes from the ground up and down, all 4 shocks, springs out, 13 minutes out the door.
Yeah.
That's the record, right?
Whoa.
I've done a swap in 4.5 hours, like from nothing, or lowering a Mustang in 20 minutes. These are all bets I've won.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'd probably take me 13 minutes to fucking figure out where to put the feet on the rack. Like, my back. And, like, you're not this young chicken anymore.
Yeah.
And me, I'm completely screwed together. I've broken a lot of shit. My hips and my shoulder, and I just don't move as fluid as I used to, and I'm not as sharp as I used to be. But when it comes to fab, I'm in my realm.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing there. I know my dimension. I know what needs to happen, especially when we're talking headers, because there are rules that we follow that are very, very strict on how this engine's going to make power. There's no rules or sanctioning bodies that dictate these things, but to the engine builder, it shows.
Yeah.
And to the driver, it really shows. But, if I don't follow those rules, then I'm going to be guessing. And I don't like to guess, like when it comes to technical shit. I don't know. Like, I'm off track here, but what would be interesting what you were going to ask. I was like,
I don't even know. I haven't even looked at that one, dude. These are the best kind of conversations to have because it just flows so well. There's not any topics that I need to bring up because it's all just coming out,
Well,
and
that's kind of what I planned, when I planned shit.
Yeah.
But I was like, I honestly, there's so much to talk about that I want to talk about, because not because of it's important to me,
Yeah.
right? I know that out there right now, there's not a lot, okay? But I've told you my story, and I didn't tell you my story for you to feel bad for me or anything. I've fucking triumphed over those things.
Hell yeah.
Right? And not because of anything I did. It's because somewhere down the road, I found the means to an end and something that helped me through that. And the right people, right? So somewhere out there right now, there's some broke kid with no food in the fucking refrigerator, and everything. I couldn't imagine being a kid nowadays with that fucking device.
I told my son that yesterday.
Yeah, I tell my kids that all the time. I was like, look, I cannot tell you what it's like to be a kid in 2019. I have no idea what it's like to be you. I just know that you need to stick to your moral boundaries, and that is your rule. That's your fucking bumper right there. You stay in that and never sacrifice that for anybody, and you'll be okay, right? That's as much as I know. But to the kid out there that's poor, and the kid out there that believes that you have to have these things, and you it's just unobtainable because they've been kicked down so many fucking times. Their time will come. Your time will come, and the thing is just to stick it out. It gets really hard. It's you feel alone in the world when there's nothing to eat and there's nothing to do, and the simplest things in life are unobtainable, like a fucking signal for your phone. Growing up with a 13-inch black and white TV, you find ways to entertain yourself. And sometimes those burdens or those things you see of the have-nots are the greatest things that you could ever happen to you, because it's going to lead you into greatness. It's not going to tie you up in petty shit that other people are doing. It's going to free you to chase what you're after and, hone your craft. And that's all of us old guys really is a culmination of a bunch of years not giving up. Right? And just fucking pushing on that door. Like, you know what? I'm not leaving, dude. And, for me, there had to be an X factor, which is definitely racing. Like I said before, I had to compete. The kids out there that have the talent behind the wheel will find a ride. There's just people out there that it's not even about hating or just being on agreement. They're fucking struggling. The world is a very hot and cold place right now. You either got money or you don't. Yeah. And it's just the middle class is going away. I was raised by, my whole family is generations of blue collar. You go to fucking work. I don't want to hear it. And that's it. I've never heard a complaint out of anybody from my family. Did we not have family? No, we didn't have any family time. I was alone a lot, but I understood. And I respect the shit out of my family for doing that. So basically the message is if you believe in something enough, it may wait till you're 40 something years old, and it may be some young guy who'll come by that just might be your break. That wasn't the case for me, but you just don't know where those breaks are going to come from. But you got to be there and have something to offer.
Maybe that break was going to that Honda track.
Yeah, the break was going to that dirt jump spot.
I look back at my life and I think that my break was when I moved to Nevada. I lived in northern Nevada for.
I was just there.
Really?
Yeah.
Where
I was
at?
just in the Summit store.
No shit, in Reno?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was my dream, bro. I loved it out there.
Dude, it is calm. I mean, it's calm. We stayed we had a race there up in I wish I was more familiar. I flew in, but there's a random casino that everybody stays at. I can't remember where it was, but where you described like the Summit store is a few miles away, but we had an off-road race up there. Yeah. And my buddy he just moved. He got a new career and moved up and relocated. He fucking hates it up there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you liked it.
I didn't like it, but that was a turning point for my life. I lived there for about 3 or 4 years, and I learned a lot about myself, and I had to go through a lot of tough lessons. And then I realized that, like, seeing opportunities and seizing opportunities, there was a lot of value in that, and I've really honed in on that skill. And right now, that's why I want to talk to everybody, because you never know where something is going to go.
Right.
Like I said, just you making that connection for me did so much for me, and we didn't even know each other. Just imagine where things can go if you have a 3.5 hour conversation.
Did we talk 3.5 hours? Oh shit.
3.5 hour conversation with somebody.
You know what's crazy? That's not even. It's not. That's wild.
Yeah,
you were asking me, like, I think it's kind of funny because you're like, oh, they're introverted and don't talk.
Yeah,
dude. When I get somebody that I like to talk to, it's fucking over. They're like, fuck, I start a conversation with her.
No, it's awesome, man.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
That would be, it'd be silly, but I do get it out with the right people. Like, you have those people you can talk to, and for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know you from. I mean, we are on each other's Facebook. I pay attention, but as a person, you never know who Frank really is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I know you now, but it was cool. The night, this is the irony of life, right? Was when I was standing in line to that club the night I met you. I'm just standing there, right? I'm like, I'm fucking too old to be here. I don't want to be here. I'm like literally crossing arms and just, I don't want to be here. I forget who I was even with. But somebody comes up and hugs me from behind. Like,
yeah, I remember it was you, it was Ryan, and or there was you and
Chris.
Yes, Generate.
Yeah, but the people I were with made it in the club.
Oh,
right, and they had me at the, and they pulled some. I'm like, what are you fucking tripping on, right? And I left, but then I before that we were because they let us in before everybody.
Yes.
And TJ was waiting in line. I didn't know he was there.
Yeah.
But I was just standing there, and I hadn't talked to TJ in all honesty probably like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want to say we had a falling out, but sometimes when you do business, it affects things.
Definitely.
And I probably at a certain point should have brought certain projects back to my shop to handle things rather than do everything on the road. But anyways, I'm getting hugged from behind. Like, I'm just standing there, I'm like, who the fuck is hugging me? And I turn around and TJ's just sitting there, like, just smiling, like no time has passed, kind of buzzed, just chilling and smiling, and it made my day.
Yeah.
It made my day because there, like, I appreciate his personality. Fuck all of his success. Yeah. Fuck all of that shit. Honestly, half the times, like, I'm like, fuck this kid, right?
Yeah.
But I don't mean that. It's just like, he's a busy man, right? He's got a lot of shit going on. He's got bigger fish to fry. But when he came and that gesture happened, I was like, all right, cool. We're cool. Like that's all I needed. Like, we didn't have any real beef.
Yeah.
It was never said. And then I walk right over and I look over and it was Chris and I think it was you or whatever, but I won't go into detail like what made me laugh about the whole situation or what made me easy with it, because you had made some comments online before, but it was a very interesting segue to meet you from TJ there. I'm like, I'm literally here in the middle of Vegas and these are the two guys I run into. There's got to be a reason for this, right?
Yeah.
And, I got a fucking bomb-ass sushi dinner out of it. We actually went to that restaurant with the owner of it's like Mustang Dyno and some Speed Society guys this last trip. So I was just sitting there and I was recalling that when I was there. It was the four of us.
Yeah.
It was you, Ryan, Chris, and myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know.
And my wife was there too, I believe.
No.
She was coming that night.
Yeah,
that's right. She was coming that night. Yes.
Yeah, everybody was having a good time.
Yeah.
We were chilling.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was an interesting. I'm like, you sure you want me to go? 'Cause I'm not fucking whatever. And I got it. Let's go. And it was a good time.
I don't like to leave people out. I don't care if I don't know you. Like, I knew of you, and we've had conversations, but we weren't friends, and that doesn't matter to me because I've been in that position before, and that's like a terrible feeling, if
well, I mean, a younger person, yeah, but when you're older, it's like whatever.
If we're all hanging out and somebody can't get in or something can't, it's like I can't go in. I can't.
Yeah.
It's inside of me
Right.
where I don't care if we're not even the closest of friends. I can't. It's not right. It doesn't feel right to me. You know, I can't. I'm usually the one when we go into clubs or something to be like the last one to go in just to make sure. All right, no problems. The dress code's cool. Everybody's cool. Let's go in. And it's just that
I see that in you.
when you were just like chilling there and we were gonna go do whatever, it was like, dude, let's just go.
Yeah, well, you have to understand too, Chris is a good friend of mine. You know, he's actually hired me, flown me out, and I spent 6 days staying with him. In all honesty, we probably worked like a total of 1 day.
Yeah.
And he gave me like the dopest trip through Seattle. Like, if you are ever in Seattle and you don't call Chris, you fucked up.
Really?
Oh my
Hell
God,
yeah.
dude, that dude will take you through Seattle. Like, when I came home, I was like, we got to move to Seattle. I mean, if you got $4 million to drop on a condo, like, you know, go to Seattle. But she's like, no, fuck that. You've already been there. It's work. And I'm like, no, this place is dope. We got to go back.
Yeah.
So we did. We eventually did it was an 11-day road trip. We
No way.
flew into Seattle, chilled in Seattle for 3 days, drove to the tip of the United States, and then just slowly drove down the 101 all the way to home.
Dope.
It was the most relaxing thing I've ever done.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I've never been out there before, but I would love to go out.
Seattle's so dope. Like, if you're a Cali boy, especially, and you're used to, you know, water and whatever, it's a whole new take on it.
Yeah.
You know, you think you got it nice here. It's super dope up there. And, you know, you have the right tour, it gets even better.
Yeah.
You know?
We were just hanging out this past SEMA with Chris.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you were with Ryan.
Yeah, what the fuck did we even do? Dude, all
I
this shit
was walking
blends
in
together.
and I saw you and Robbie doing a podcast, and I was like,
Oh, that's
It's
right.
definitely not a conversation I'm walking up on. They're like, that's fucking ILK Fab. He just wants something. And it's like, bullshit. Because you're like the only two dudes I've ever hit up for anything.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I'm not going to walk up to fucking both of them right now.
Bro, that stuff doesn't mind me
No, I know it doesn't.
at
And
all.
I
You know,
don't
and
think- don't think
there's
it would.
certain people. This is what I do. Okay, I do this a lot now. I test people because okay, I'm gonna throw you this bone right here. Let's see where this goes. You know, and we'll see how this relationship matures. So I'm gonna
Okay.
do my part. And let's see where your part, what you do. You know, and there's more than not. There's to get disappointed all the time, but it's not a disappointment. It's just this is like a test. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. You want something I have? All right, cool. Here it is. What are you gonna give me? How are we gonna build this relationship?
Right.
You know, and but for some people it has worked out great, you know, and even though you may not feel that I owe you something, I think that you did something for me that you didn't have to do, and I hold a lot of value in that because there's a lot of people that can do things for me, and we've built that relationship. They've seen where I've come from, and they just choose not to do it just because it's not in their thing today. They're not thinking about me. When that connection can be made, when this person's working on this SEMA car, when this person has so much influence in the community and they're putting a car together or whatever, I don't come to their mind.
Right.
That's like when if I'm working on a car and you know they need
pretty
some
wild.
wiring done, and I'm just like, I don't know, you know. I would tell Ryan, you know, I do it so much all the time, and that's why Ryan and I have this close relationship, and I don't have that relationship with so many other people in the community because it's like, dude, nuts and bolts, you can use it on every single car. I know pretty much the most influential people in the import community.
Right.
You would think it would be like a no-brainer.
Right.
Okay, they'll hit up Frank. I know he'll take care of it. You know, just let me throw him this alley-oop.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But for somebody that I don't even know to do that for me, that says a lot about you and your character, and I really appreciate that.
I'm glad you do. Like, it was a no-brainer, you know, and I appreciate it when people do it for me. And again, it's the import thing, and I'm a huge fan. The smaller the part for me, the more important it is.
Yeah.
Like those details are fucking huge to me. When you see, I don't know. I'm old and jaded, right?
Yeah.
Like the miscolored engine bay.
Yeah.
that became popular because we were too broke to paint our engine bays,
Yeah.
right? And now it's like, what's popping? This is what people do, and it kind of caught on. Some things happen by mistake. Some things are very intentional. And when you set out to offer hardware that people can use and further their builds, you really helped it out. You helped me out. When I have, like when I ordered from you, I ordered a quantity and a size, and it just gives me a range.
Yeah.
I don't need, this kit. I just need this many and this whatever.
Yeah.
And I got them. I'm like, they're dope, and I need that. I have yet to make an order with money.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. But, I have no problem spending my money with you. It's just my mind. It's like the bottom line is I can make that stuff.
Yeah.
And I choose not to because you've made it very easy for me not to.
You help me out. I'm like I said, money isn't a motivation for me anymore.
No, money comes with good relationships.
Yeah, it's all about building relationships. I help you, you help me, and it's not like, okay, well, I helped you that last time. Where's you're gonna help me? But it's that when that thought comes into your mind, like, who do I know that does hardware? I just want my name to pop up, and that's pretty much all I ask.
Oh, it will. I mean, I don't know if you remember, for a while though, I shot you a few messages because on one of your cars you had the pie cut intake done on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I messaged you. I was like, I think I could do that a little different.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I'll ever tell you. If I want to do something else, I'll be like, I think I could do that a little different.
Yeah.
That's as much as you're gonna get, unless you're a real close friend. And
that looks like shit.
Topic. No, it wasn't that way. But I was like, for a details guy, for me, it was the one thing that I saw that you didn't have control over.
And a lot of people pointed that out to me, and that's the same thing. I don't weld, and this is the vision that I had, and this is as good as it came out at this time. And I know that's not like, this isn't my 100%. This isn't like, okay, this is just one step. Right. Where the car is at right now, and even when people did point it out to me, sometimes when people point out something to me that is like my idea, how I wanted it to be, that bothers me. But when people pointed that out to me, I'm like, damn, you're right. You're definitely right about that. That's an opportunity that I have with that.
It was, and it was like a door for me to open that relationship, because again, me doing builds, there's a lot of I rely on hardware.
Yeah.
It makes my parts look fantastic. And it would be no different than me having a washer on my car that had a rough cut. It never had a final pass. It never got cleaned up.
Yeah.
You're seeing all the tool path on it. You're going to go, fuck that. I'm going to send you washers that don't have a tool path in it. And it's no different than when you see something, especially a focal point of an engine bay that's pie cut. If it's not executed perfectly, it's not executed.
Definitely.
It's very hard to get right on aluminum.
Yeah.
And I think whoever did it did a great job, but you're predisposed to being fucked before you even start with that material.
No, definitely. And that's outside of my expertise. So it was like, it didn't even click in my head. But once it did come up, then I was like, okay, cool. This makes sense.
No, it wasn't so much. I'm not even, it was dope. I wasn't even hating on it. It was just like when I was reaching out. And when you look in your inbox and like, hey, I can build your shit better, in other words, you're really not going to, I don't want to be that guy. So, it's just kind of building that relationship, and that's why it's cool. Like people always say, again, Mickey, I'm bringing up Mickey again because he's really our common denominator.
Yeah, definitely.
He's our reference. He's like, he's our sounding board. He has an eye that it's second to none. Like when it comes to seeing a build and doing it, he does, when it comes to fab, he knows what to do. He can fucking fab beautifully. He just calls me for it. He doesn't weld. He doesn't do any of that. Those guys are starting to do weld. There's some cool shit that's going to probably eventually come out of there. They've had some amazing shit come out of there. Don't get me wrong. Like those, I don't think people understand what it takes to do what they're doing. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And especially when you're OCD like Mickey, like I'm going to see it. And that's my approach. Like, you won't see that. That doesn't live here. But they, the Mickey spec thing. My wife was wearing that shirt this morning. Like, I'm going in and I'm like, well, you fucking got a Mickey spec shirt on this morning. I'm like, really? That's too far. That's because she just takes my shirts, sleeping or whatever. And I don't really wear the Mickey spec shirt because it's a dope shirt. I want to keep the memory. And I walk in, she's wearing it. I'm just like, what the fuck? But anyways, when Mickey needs something, he calls me, or he calls John. Yeah. I don't know if you know what JSP is, but John's
JSP Fab.
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
John's a really good dude, and he's very extremely talented. Especially in his new machining deal. He's fucking brilliant. He did everything that I did and probably more. Not on the header and the race side of things, but import dynamics, turbocharging, and everything, and all that whole umbrella. He was under it, and he finally just had enough, and then moved on to the machining side. So it's an honor to be. I worked for John for a month. And there was just not enough room for whatever. And then I eventually moved on to the company that introduced me to racing headers and shit. But it wasn't for John and my old beat up hatch. Like, this was like 6 years ago. Then I wouldn't have had all these new opportunities. So it's all in a roundabout kind of way. And seeing one of Mickey's builds there before I ever met Mickey. Like, I didn't even realize it was Mickey's car until we Throttle was already thriving in this new place. It was the most beautiful A86 I've ever seen. Like, I don't want to bring it up. Sorry to bring it up, Mickey, but that car was fucking dope and had the capability to really hurt some feelings. And it was just a total package car. Yeah. And looking back, John's like, that was his A86. I'm like, no way. Because I'd go there every day, and just the detail was amazing.
He's got a good eye on him, man. I saw that. I finally saw the 240 in person at SEMA. Shit's sick, man.
Yeah, if I ever built a street 240, I couldn't really stray from that chassis, aside from nothing really. Yeah. I mean, it actually has my valve cover and a lot of my engine parts on it.
Oh, really?
I donated to Calvin. Shout out to Calvin. Yeah. Nobody ever talks about Calvin.
I want to have Calvin on the pod, man.
Calvin's the fucking homie. Yeah. See, I'm one of the most low maintenance people you ever meet. I don't give a fuck if you don't call me in 10 years. You call me in 10 years, we're gonna leave right where we started. Yeah. I don't care if we don't go eat or nothing, because, dude, honestly, I'm not gonna call you either. Yeah. Like, I'm bad at it. Calvin's the same way. No time passes every time I see him. And every time I've taken the time to explain something, he's totally, honed in and perfected it and gotten better at it and appreciated it. Is he totally into the car thing? Probably not. Smart thing, but he's successful whether he wants to be or not, and he's just he's just as much part as Hunt & Co. as Hunt itself. Yeah. Like, Calvin is that dude.
Yeah, man. I find him very interesting, especially when they had the podcast.
That's the word.
I would watch some of the episodes and some of the topics he would bring up. Very interesting to me, and they had nothing to do with cars.
I don't think I've ever seen one. His outlook on life is very mature, and yes, he's just gets wild and whatever, but that's just him having fun. Yeah. Like, I can't say I know him 100% well, but we have a lot of conversations. Like, when I used to go by there a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have to go by. I have 2 builds going on there right now, but when I see Calvin, it's just like, it just makes me smile. Hell yeah. He's a happy little dude. But,
shout out to Calvin, man.
Yeah. But yeah, he needs to be pointed out. Yeah. You cut this short whenever you want. Like,
dude, this is such a great combo, man.
I don't want you to feel like, ooh.
No, dude, I think we touched a lot of stuff, and I know there's a lot more in there, but this... It's
just car shit.
This went great, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming. I appreciate you sharing with us, and it's just... it's opened my eyes to a lot, and that's why I like having these combos, because you get to know these people, you see their name, their business, and things like that, but... you have a certain perception of them in your head that may not be true, and not in a good or bad way. Just in a certain way. I'm sure there's people that see me, that see the things that we do, see that picture, and they think of the brand, they think of Downstar, they think of me in a certain way. But until you sit with somebody and have like an intimate conversation for hours on end, that's like, there's a lot of value in that.
There can be. It doesn't matter how it's received, as long as it's received by someone, I guess.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense, but you know what I mean.
I think people are going to enjoy this combo for sure, man.
Depends on how you chop it up, I guess.
No, we don't chop nothing. Straight up, dude. I put the intro, outro. We're ready to go.
All right.
And I know that our listeners, they expect episodes like this. They expect long ones. And a lot of guys, they're just going through their work day. They got the headphones on and they're taking care of whatever they got to take care of. And at the least of things, I hope that we're able to make their day easier and more enjoyable.
Yeah, I know you've made mine a lot. A lot of these podcasts, because they're relatable. This is what we do, and it's kind of it can be overload sometimes thinking about all this import shit, which honestly isn't even a small percentage of really what my company does.
Yeah.
But it's where my heart is, and it's where my hobby is, and it's where the passion came from, and it's where I'm always going to stay.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go fucking V8 or none of that. I have nothing against it. I love it. I love driving the cars. I love being afraid of them. Healthy, afraid. But
yeah,
I'm going to build imports to the end.
Hell yeah.
That's it. So
I feel you on that one, man. Eric, thank you so much for being here, though,
thank
bro.
You for having
I know
me.
You got to trek home, and
I'm fucked now, so I'm chilling. No, I'm going to go have dinner with my sister in Long Beach. So.
Oh, sick. Okay, cool.
You think I'll wear these shoes for you? Fucking with you.
Eric, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you for having
so
me,
before we get out of here, can you tell people where they can find you at?
You can find me at ILK Fab Inc. on Instagram, and there's an email there if you need it. And beyond that, just DM me, and I'll do whatever I can to help.
Dope, man.
If you have any questions, or more importantly, a race car that you'd really like to make power with, please give me a holler, because I can definitely help you. I guarantee it.
Dope, dude. And I'm glad that we got this story out there, bro.
I don't know what we got out there, but there's something out there.
There's something. Just like you said, you work so close to your business or your fab that you really don't understand what's going on around you. The story and the things that you talked about. It's your life. It's what you've been through. So maybe to you, it's just normal, but to others, I guarantee it'll bring a lot of value to it.
I appreciate that, and I hope they do. To me, it's just a normal conversation to get people on the, at least where my mind's at.
Yeah. And it's awesome to know, because in the future you could come back and listen to this, and I know I'm going to be doing that in the future, listening to these old episodes, and it's just going to show me where we were at that time, and hopefully in the future we're in a better position than we're at now. But I don't even know how that's going to happen, because right now is like, I always say today's the best day of my life, because I've experienced every day in the past from now. I have.
That's a nice thing.
It's crazy, man, and I never would have thought about that. In the past, there's always things that I wanted, things that I felt incomplete. But right now, it's an amazing feeling, and it has nothing to do with money or fame or cars or anything like that. If it's inside of me, I feel like at peace.
Yeah.
I feel like everything that I've done was
worthwhile
in a genuine space, and if it wasn't, I've made those changes to get to where I'm at, and I realize that I still have a road to go down and things to improve on, but knowing that you have those opportunities is a win in its own.
It is 100%,
and
you're gonna do well with it. You're already, you don't need advice from me. I'm not trying to give you advice. I'm just saying, don't change too much. What you've done is working. Maybe just keep doing it more.
I appreciate that, brother. Hell yeah. Guys, make sure you check out Eric, ILK Fab. What is it? ILK Fab Inc. is on the Instagram?
ILK Fab Inc. One word.
ILK Fab Inc. I'll have it listed below. And make sure you guys show Eric some love. And And thank you guys for your time. I know it's if you made it to this part of the episode.
Thanks for listening to my story, or at least a small percentage of it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you guys, man. And once again, this is Downtime with Downstar, episode 124, and we out. Peace.
Peace.